In the apocalypse, men are the most dangerous creatures alive. I move that we cast Lu Yuan out of the group to keep us sisters safe. The seventh day after darkness descended, only 19 people remained alive in the entire apartment building. Lu Yuan stood behind the iron door of the safe house, peering through the peephole at a writhing dark mass creeping slowly down the corridor. His hand was steady. The shaft of the fire axe he gripped was wrapped in blood-stained cloth strips. The cloth strips were torn from a resident's corpse during their breakout from the 17th floor the previous day. "You look worn out, Xiao Yuan." A voice came from behind him. Lu Yuan turned to see Qiu Yuan stepping closer, holding out a damp towel. Qiu Yuan was a strikingly beautiful woman in her early 30s, with alluring features and the grace of a married woman. Above all, she had an incredible figure, a slender waist, shapely hips, and curves so breathtaking they commanded every gaze. Her temperament matched her looks. Gentle, soft-spoken, the archetype of a mature woman. She was far from ordinary. She owned a financial firm, worth hundreds of millions, and moved in Shanghai's highest social circles. Among the 18 female survivors, she was one of the few who treated Lu Yuan decently. "Thank you." Lu Yuan nodded and took the towel. The moment his fingers closed around it, a clear female voice cut through the crowd. "Lu Yuan." He swiveled his head to see Fang Yaqi stand up from the corner. She was an A-list celebrity from Dragon Country, with 20 million followers on Weibo. Right before the apocalypse, she had just been announced as the lead actress for a high-budget drama. She was wrapped in a premium cashmere shawl Lu Yuan had scavenged from the neighboring flat. Her hair had been messy for days, yet the haughty arrogance in her eyes had not faded one bit. Fang Yaqi fixed her gaze on him. Her voice was quiet, yet loud enough for everyone to hear. "Thank you for everything these past few days. I'll admit, you're a good security guard." Lu Yuan said nothing. He watched her silently, waiting for the inevitable but, Fang Yaqi went on, just as he expected. "Now that we've survived, I believe some things need to be reconsidered." She scanned the room, her eyes sweeping across 17 women's faces. There were senior executives from large corporations in their 30s, wealthy young heiresses fresh out of university, internet influencers with millions of followers. All eyes were on her. "You've all seen what lies outside." Fang Yaqi's tone took on a performative heaviness. "Those monsters, all the people who've died. We are the last ones left. We have to stick together to live." But the problem is, her gaze locked back onto Lu Yuan. In the apocalypse, men are the most dangerous creatures. Silence hung in the safe house for a heartbeat. "Pardon." Lu Yuan wondered if he had misheard. "I mean every word." Fang Yaqi took a step forward, her cashmere shawl swaying gently behind her. "The 18 of us women pose no threat to one another. But you are a man. You are stronger than us, and you hold a weapon. Who can guarantee that one day you won't?" She paused, her tone thick with implication. "Turn into another monster?" It was clear exactly what monster she meant. Her words hit the room like a stone tossed into still water. "I think Miss Fang makes a valid point." A young woman with golden big waves spoke timidly. Lu Yuan recognized her as Su Wan, a beauty influencer, gorgeous with a great figure. "The night before last, I caught him staring at me for ages." "Me too. I've never felt fully safe around him." Another woman chimed in. "What's more, he's just a security guard. He was never part of our social circle. Why obey him?" Lu Yuan stood by the doorway, still clutching his axe. A bitter laugh rose in his throat. 7 days earlier, on the first night of eternal darkness, screams and the sound of tearing flesh echoed across the residential compound. He had sprinted out from the security booth, swinging his baton to beat back 2 monsters lunging at residents. After that, he had led these 18 women upward floor by floor. They seized their first stock of supplies from the property office. They cleared all shelves from the 5th floor supermarket. When 3 monsters trapped them on the 8th floor, he stayed behind alone to hold them off so the women could flee. The unhealed gash on his back was left by a claw. The claw had aimed straight for Fang Yaqi. And now, Fang Yaqi stood before him, her refined face familiar to audiences nationwide, and declared calmly, "I propose that Lu Yuan leave our group for the safety of all sisters." She turned to the others once she finished speaking. "All those in favor, raise your hands." 1, 2, 3. Lu Yuan watched hands lift one after another, like rotting figures in slow motion from a zombie film. When he counted, 15 out of 18 women had voted yes. Only Qiu Yuan and 2 others kept their hands down. 15 against 3. There you have it. Fang Yaqi tilted her chin upward slightly. "This is the collective decision. Lu Yuan, you are a man. The outside world suits you better. We will set aside a share of supplies for you. You can leave now." She spoke as if granting him an immense favor. Lu Yuan remained silent for a long time. He glanced down at the axe in his hand, then at the pile of supplies. Then he lifted his head, his eyes as calm as stagnant water. Very well. The iron door slammed shut behind him, and Lu Yuan caught the first snicker. Finally, he's gone. Fang Yaqi's voice seeped out through the crack, like a snake flicking its tongue. I haven't slept properly these days. Always terrified I'd wake up to see a shadow looming by my bed. Now we don't have to fear anymore. Same here, Suwon replied right after, adopting the over-dramatic tone she used on live streams. You have no idea. Every time I went to the corner to change clothes, I felt eyes boring into my back. Ugh, a lowly security guard thinking he can reach for swans. Don't be harsh, Won. He did save us after all. It was Tang Shi, a rich heiress, a pampered little princess born into wealth. Her voice was soft and sugary. Still, honestly, things will be better with him gone. Men hold the advantage in strength. Who knows when their filthy thoughts might boil over? That's what I've been saying all along. Fang Yaqi raised her voice, as if announcing victory. In the apocalypse, women are safest when we stick only with other women. No male gaze, no disgusting possessive urges. If us sisters stand united, soft and gentle as we are, we can survive all the same. Exactly right. Someone echoed her, followed by a burst of feminine giggles. That security guard's out there now. The monsters will get him first. So what if they do? He's none of our business anymore. Hey, guess which floor he's on now? Do you think something's chasing him? Ha ha ha. Just imagining that scene makes me laugh. Enough. Fang Yaqi cut them off, satisfaction of a leader lacing her words. Forget about him. Let's redistribute and tally our supplies. We might even manage to live comfortably with plenty to eat and drink. From this moment, the 18 of us sisters are family. Sister Yaqi is absolutely right. We'll follow Sister Yaqi from now on. The cheerfulness from behind the iron door drifted through the thick fireproof panel, muffled, like bubbles rising from underwater. Lu Yuan stood in the dark stairwell, holding a sack of biscuits and a canteen. This was the only portion he took from their supplies before leaving. The so-called supply stockpile barely held enough food to last a week in total. He did not take more, nor did he need to. He had ample reserves hidden elsewhere. As for what awaited these women after he left, how many of the 18 would ever make it out of this building? Ridiculous. He walked straight forward. The voices behind him faded, growing blurry and distant. All that talk of male gaze, of being soft and safe together, of we can make it on our own, he heard every word and stored every one of them away. 21st floor. Lu Yuan pushed open the door to a secluded flat. The room was pitch black, nothing visible. But he did not need light. He knew every detail of this place. He walked to the wall, opened a cabinet, and pulled out a rechargeable camping lantern, twisting the switch to turn it on. Warm yellow light flooded the living room. Lu Yuan set the lantern on the coffee table and straightened, surveying the scene before him. Cardboard boxes lined 2 neat rows. 6 cartons of bottled water were stacked up. Large storage bags held compressed biscuits and ham sausages. There were cans, self-heating rice meals, vacuum-packed marinated eggs, plus iodine, gauze and fever medicine he had scavenged from the pharmacy next door. These were Lu Yuan's private reserves. The supplies Fang Yaqi's group had access to amounted to roughly 1/4 of what lay here. The remaining 3/4 were hidden inside this flat. Lu Yuan had long realized he could not rely on those women, so he had prepared thoroughly. From day one, he knew they were not on the same path. Fang Yaqi in particular had always looked at him with condescending scrutiny. He had seen that look countless times, on the faces of residents entering and exiting the compound gate. That was how people saw security guards. So he had kept a backup plan. He never expected to need it so soon. Lu Yuan walked over to the stack of cartons in the corner, bent down, and dragged a folding chair out. He unfolded it beside the coffee table and sat down. He pulled the packet of compressed biscuits out of his pocket, tore it open, and took a bite. Dry, tasteless, almost like chewing cardboard. The reason he had saved those women in the first place was simple. He had thought this catastrophe would only last 3 to 5 days. Troops would arrive, rescue teams would come, and order would be restored. As a security guard, if he saved a dozen wealthy, influential women, even a small reward or a job offer from any of them would be a fortune beyond imagination. Qiu Yuan ran a financial firm. Fang Yaqi was a top celebrity. Gulan was a group CEO. Any single one of them could hand him enough money to live comfortably for years, if they chose. That was why he had rescued every last one of them. Now, that thought was long gone. 7 days had passed. No planes flew overhead. No vehicle horns echoed from the streets. Networks were dead, radio broadcasts silent. Outside the windows hung a permanent dark red sky, like a dried scab nailed above their heads. Never day, never night. Time had lost all meaning within this building. There existed only two states, alive or dead. Lu Yuan stuffed the last mouthful of biscuits into his mouth, chewed and swallowed. This crisis would most likely never end. At least, as far as he could foresee, no army would come rolling in armored vehicles to evacuate them. The world outside had turned into something beyond his comprehension. There was only one thing he could do: survive. So when Fang Yaqi spoke the words about casting him out, he barely held back laughter. He could not have wished for anything more. He had wanted to leave all along. He leaned back against the chair, closed his eyes, and sank his consciousness. A translucent panel unfolded in his vision, suspended in empty darkness. System: Apocalypse Survival Assistance System Beta Version Host. Lu Yuan current survival rating. Grade S day survived. 7 check-in status. Not checked in today daily check in reward pool refreshing. Lu Yuan whispered in his mind. Check in. Text on the panel flickered, and 3 lines of golden notification slowly surfaced. Check-in successful. Obtained Grade C supplies. 1 carton of Master Kong braised beef noodles Grade C, 24 packs. Obtained attribute point. Stamina plus 1 current stamina. 7-8 obtained talent. Advanced lockpicking capable of unlocking all non-electronic mechanical locks. Skill cooldown only Grade C supplies. A flicker of disappointment crossed Lu Yuan's mind. He opened his eyes. A cardboard box appeared on the coffee table, bright red packaging printed with the words Master Kong braised beef noodles. Neatly packed with 24 servings. He tapped the side of the carton, the corners of his mouth twitching. 1 carton of instant noodles. A small boost to stamina. A lockpicking skill. Before the end of the world, these things would have meant nothing. Hardly enough to hit the minimum order threshold for food delivery. But inside this apartment building right now, a carton of noodles meant he could go another week without touching his core reserves. And they tasted good, too. Instant noodles were premium currency in the apocalypse. Extra stamina meant he could climb from the ground floor all the way to the 21st floor without gasping for breath 3 extra times. As for advanced lockpicking, he glanced toward the front security door, then thought of all the locked flats. Behind every door might lie a cache of supplies. And those doors might as well be left wide open to him now. This system was absolutely incredible. Lu Yuan settled back comfortably in the chair. Elsewhere, flat 201. The atmosphere remained cheerful. Suddenly struck by an idea, Fang Yaqi clapped her hands to draw everyone's attention. Sisters, I have a suggestion. Let us have a proper feast tonight to celebrate. Her words were like tossing chopped green onions into sizzling oil. The room erupted. Yes. Ugh, I haven't slept a full night in days. Tonight, I want to eat well and sleep till noon tomorrow. Sister Yaqi knows exactly what we need. I'm ready to unwind. We must celebrate, absolutely. Several young women chattered excitedly. Suwon had already begun rummaging through the supply pile, muttering, Let's see what delicious food we've got. Wow, this bottle of Lafite, vintage 2010. My family kept quite a few bottles of this back then. She pulled a bottle of red wine out of a crate and held it up to the candlelight. Is this real? It's genuine. Tangshur leaned over to glance at the label. I think this came from the flat on the 8th floor. I remember they had a whole row lined up in their wine cabinet. Real or fake? Let's open it anyway. Tangshur kept digging through the supplies. Look at this, vacuum-packed Australian Wagyu beef. Let me check the date, still edible. There's also a box of foie gras and a tin of caviar. The two squatted beside the crates, scavenging goods as if shopping in a luxury warehouse, pulling items out one by one. Red wine, steak, foie gras, black truffle paste, scattered all over the floor. Fang Yaqi watched the scene, a faint smile playing on her lips as she folded her arms. This sense of standing above everything filled her with immense satisfaction. Sister Yaqi, someone walked over and asked, How should we prepare all this? We don't have a kitchen. Simple, Fang Yaqi replied. Open the wine and drink it straight. We can pan-fry the steak over candles and fuel tablets, slice foie gras to eat with crackers, and scoop caviar. Immediate French cuisine. Suwon clapped her hands. Apocalypse exclusive candlelit dinner. Sisters, we are pulling out all the stops. Open everything. Fang Yaqi waved her hand. We're in high spirits today, no need to hold back. Got it. Wait a moment. A voice came from the corner, quiet yet clear enough for all to hear. Qiu Yuan stood up from her chair. Her gaze swept calmly over the cheering crowd before settling on Fang Yaqi. Yaqi, she said, these supplies are our last reserves. A bottle of Lafite was worth tens of thousands before the apocalypse. Right now, it is worth less than a bottle of drinking water. If you devour our finest stock, what will we live on? The chatter in the room died down. Several women squatting by the supplies froze mid-movement and exchanged uneasy glances. Fang Yaqi's smile faded slightly, only to reappear quickly. Sister Qiu Yuan, she smiled unperturbed. I know you're looking out, but think about it. We have just made a vital decision and removed the threat among us. Isn't that worth celebrating? She stepped forward, looking around as if delivering a small speech. Supplies are important, yes, but emotional well-being matters too. What have all of us endured these days? Constant terror outside, perpetual anxiety inside the safe house. We could not even change clothes without fearing prying eyes. Now everything is different. We are truly safe at last. This meal is more than food. It is proof to ourselves, we made it, we survived. Emotional well-being is extremely important. She's right. Sister Yaqi speaks the truth. I just want to eat something nice. Who cares about tomorrow? And there are 18 of us. If we work together, how can we fail to survive? Voices of agreement rose one after another. Suwon had already pulled the cork from the wine bottle. Rich wine aroma filled the room. Tang Shi knelt on the floor, frying steak on a small metal tin over candle flames. The sizzle of melting butter sounded mouth-watering. The foie gras had been sliced and laid out on a chopping board, beside a half-open tin of caviar. Delicacies usually only seen in high-end restaurants were heaped all over the coffee table. Bathed in candlelight, the spread looked surprisingly authentic. Qiu Yuan watched the scene. Her lips parted as if she wanted to say something, yet she let out a sigh. She said no more. She sat back down, but a faint, strange glint flickered across her beautiful eyes. Her mind drifted back to the look Lu Yuan had worn before leaving. There was no anger, no hurt, not even a hint of disappointment to be found. That gaze was like a pool of water, unfathomably deep, with no visible bottom. He had left far too calmly. It was not as if he had been driven away. Rather, it felt as though he had chosen to leave of his own accord. Qiu Yuan pushed the thought down deep inside her and kept it to herself. The candlelit dinner continued. The steak was finished. The wagyu, cooked to medium rare and served with foie gras and black truffle sauce, carried a faint Michelin air. After several glasses of red wine, rosy tints crept onto everyone's cheeks, and their voices grew louder than before. But the feast did not last. One last piece of steak remained on the plate, pre-cut, roughly 2 fingers wide, resting on aluminum foil. Lin Muxue and Qin Yi reached out with their forks at exactly the same time. The tips of their cutlery clinked sharply. Lin Muxue paused and glanced up at Qin Yi. Qin Yi met her gaze. Neither withdrew her fork. Both were wealthy young ladies, pampered princesses who had grown accustomed to getting their way at home. Neither was willing to back down. I saw it first, Lin Muxue said. I extended my fork first, Qin Yi replied. Your fork moved faster, but I'd already set my sights on it long before. What good is spotting it? I had my eye on the whole steak. Does that mean you shouldn't eat any? They volleyed words back and forth. At first the others watched on in amusement and tried to mediate with laughter. Once they realized the argument was genuine, the smiles faded. I haven't had a single hot meal in 3 days, Lin Muxue said stiffly. Let me have this last piece. Who hasn't endured these past 3 days the same way? Qin Yi refused to yield. You ought to give it to me. I'm 2 years younger. Shouldn't the elder sister make allowances? Don't pull that line. That's enough. Fang Yaqi stood up from the sofa. A smile still lingered on her face, yet it had turned rigid. Holding her wine glass, she stepped forward and positioned herself between the two girls. Muxue Yi, she spoke with the steady poise of a gala host. It's only a piece of steak. It's not worth fighting over. We're sisters. Talk things through properly. Split this between you half each. Will that work? Lin Muxue shot Fang Yaqi a glance, her lips twisting downward. She said nothing, yet she did not pull her fork away. Qin Yi retracted her fork, only to roll her eyes and turn her head aside, muttering under her breath. Fine, split it. It's not even anything great anyway. Lin Muxue's brows knitted instantly. Who are you calling nothing great? I'm talking about the steak. Why are you getting so defensive? I can hear exactly what you meant. You. All right, enough. Fang Yaqi set her wine glass down heavily on the coffee table and raised her voice at last. Her outburst silenced the pair for a moment. Everyone in the room turned to look at her. Fang Yaqi drew a deep breath and adopted the commanding bearing she used playing queen roles on set, sweeping her gaze across the group. Girls, we were celebrating just now. We agreed to stand united from this day onward. And yet, after barely any time has passed, you're quarreling fiercely over food. Is it really necessary? It's just one steak. She paused and softened her tone, as if soothing a group of sulking children. Besides, think about where we are. The 21st floor, the highest in the entire building. There are countless apartments downstairs. Surely there must be food in people's refrigerators, cabinets, and storage rooms. Once we run out, look for more. She spread her hands casually. Finding food is hardly a difficult task. Lu Yuan managed it before he went out to search. If he can do it, so can we. Her words lightened the tension in the room noticeably. Suwan chimed in from the side. Exactly. Even a security guard like Lu Yuan can find supplies. With so many of us, how could we fail? Let's drop the argument and drink our red wine. Tang Shi lifted her glass. Come on, let's toast. Let bygones be bygones. Lin Muxiue and Qin Yi exchanged a look. Though displeasure still clouded their faces, they stopped bickering. Qin Yi tossed her fork onto the table and took a sip from her glass. Lin Muxiue picked up the piece of steak, and no one tried to stop her. Candle flames flickered once more. Glasses were refilled, and the steak was chewed and swallowed. The faint awkwardness was quickly washed away by wine. Sitting in the corner, however, Qi Yuan had witnessed everything clearly. She clutched her glass of red wine. Her gaze drifted from Lin Muxiue to Qin Yi, then from Fang Yaqi to the nearly empty supply crates. Half a bottle of red wine remained. The foie gras was gone, the caviar almost finished. 3 out of several chocolate boxes had been opened, and crumpled aluminum foil littered the tabletop. Before the end, this was an ordinary dinner. But what about now? Now all of it was irreplaceable. And those ordinary dinners were gone forever. Qi Yuan set down her wine glass, interlaced her fingers, and rested them on her knees. She stared down at her hands. She said nothing, and no one paid her any mind. Amid such a crowd, quiet people were easily overlooked. One thought occupied her mind. When Fang Yaqi had said finding food was simple, she had spoken so lightly. She spoke as if mentioning going downstairs to collect a food delivery. She seemed to have completely forgotten the creatures roaming the building. She forgot Lu Yuan always carried an axe whenever he ventured out. She forgot the shadow on the 8th floor had once stood merely 3 steps behind them. She truly believed whatever Lu Yuan could accomplish, they could achieve too. Qi Yuan slowly clenched her fingers. Sooner or later, Fang Yaqi would get all of them killed. The vague thought lingering deep inside her had now turned crystal clear. She reached a decision in her heart. Elsewhere, Lu Yuan knew nothing of the farce. He squatted in the corridor on the 18th floor, tightening the straps of his backpack. The black fog was growing denser. Since the previous day, that gray, corrosive mist had been creeping upward from the lower floors. It was manageable during daylight, but at night it nearly swallowed entire floors whole. One could not even see their own toes standing within it. After observing this phenomenon, Lu Yuan reached a conclusion. If he did not search the lower floors soon, there might not be another chance. The black fog surged up from underground and would eventually submerge all lower levels. By then, venturing down would make breathing difficult. That was why he had headed out promptly at 12 noon. This was a pattern he had summed up over 7 days. Between 11:30 and 12:30 each day, the fog thinned, and monsters grew dormant. He did not know the exact reason, yet the timing was as reliable as an alarm clock. Lu Yuan called this window of opportunity the safe interval. The safe interval lasted 1 hour. He had to finish scavenging within that hour, return to the 21st floor, close the door, and settle in. If he missed the deadline and the fog thickened again, anything could happen. He chose the 18th floor. He had already scouted everything from the 17th floor downward the previous day. He had walked to the 17th floor bend with his axe, only to spot the shadow writhing just around the corner. The stench burned his eyes. He had retreated without hesitation. The 18th floor was the lowest level where he could safely move around during the safe interval. It held another advantage. When they fled upward, they only broke doors easily forced. He would swing the fire axe, shatter lock cylinders, kick the doors open, grab supplies, and rush onward. Several apartments on the 18th floor, however, had reinforced entryways. High-grade security doors fitted with alloy locks. Axe strikes only sparked metal, leaving the doors completely unharmed. Monsters had been chasing them at the time. He had no time to waste struggling with these doors and moved on. Circumstances were different now. Lu Yuan stood before the first apartment door on the 18th floor and ran his fingers over the lock. A Yale electronic fingerprint lock with dual systems and dual drive mechanisms, designed to lock automatically. Before the apocalypse, a complete set of this lock and matching door would have cost upwards of 50,000 yuan, requiring a 3-month advance order. Lu Yuan had overheard residents chatting during his patrol shifts. They said the lock resisted prying, smashing, and technical unlocking, even earning homeowners reduced insurance premiums. As he stared at the lock, an indescribable sensation washed over him, as though a dormant nerve had awakened. He could sense every component within the lock cylinder: pins, leaf tumblers, the mechanical base of the encrypted chip. Every detail unfolded before his eyes like a blueprint. He pulled a thin steel wire. He used a wire and a small metal shim from his pocket, items he had taken from the property office toolbox. He had never known how to use them before, yet his hands moved with effortless fluidity. He inserted the wire, pressed the metal shim into place, twisted half a turn left, and lifted gently. Click. The door unlocked. Lu Yuan glanced at the tools in his hand, then back at the door. System, you really are a game changer. He pushed the door open and stepped inside. The room was pitch black, curtains drawn tightly shut. Lu Yuan pulled a small flashlight out of his backpack, switching it on. He swept the beam across the space. The living room was astonishingly spacious, roughly 70 to 80 square meters. It held genuine leather sofas, a marble coffee table, and a reproduction oil painting with a copper frame. He hurried toward the kitchen. When he pulled open the double-door refrigerator, a sour stench rushed out. All the premium fresh produce inside had rotted away. He frowned and closed it, then began rummaging. The moment he opened a cabinet, Lu Yuan's eyes widened. 7 or 8 bottles of well-aged red wine lined the wine rack. Below them sat a bottle of Hennessy XO and Japanese whiskey. Whoever lived here, Lu Yuan muttered, shifting the wine bottles aside. Wine could wait. He needed to find food first. Digging deeper, the dry goods cabinet held few items, yet all were high quality. A jar of Italian black truffle sauce, still more than half full. 2 packs of pasta, 1 wide and 1 thin. A tin of French foie gras, heavy in his hand. A small bag of dried scallops. There was also a 5-kilogram sack of rice. It had been opened, yet barely touched, enough for around 10 meals. At the bottom lay 2 packs of vacuum-packed rice noodles and self-heating hot pot. Lu Yuan squatted to examine everything, swallowing hard. Half an hour earlier, he had been huddled in the shelter chewing dry ration biscuits that made his jaw ache. He looked at the supplies spread out. Pasta, dried scallops, truffle sauce, foie gras tins, and a sack of rice. You folks were all wealthy once, he mumbled, clamping the flashlight between his teeth. Now you're all my lifesavers. He stuffed the entire sack of rice inside, took both packs of pasta, tucked the truffle sauce into a side pocket. He wrapped the dried scallops and foie gras tin in clothing and stowed them. He also took the rice noodles and self-heating hot pot. His first stop yielded decent gains. Next apartment. It required both fingerprint and mechanical lock verification. Lu Yuan worked at it, and click, the door opened. Several open bottles of red wine sat on the kitchen counter. He left them untouched. He did find 2 boxes of self-heating rice from a high-end outdoor brand inside the cabinets. Beside them stood 2 cans of instant coffee. One had been opened but still sealed, and it smelled fresh. In the corner lay an unopened box of imported chocolate. Lu Yuan packed the items. Third apartment. He did not head straight for the kitchen after opening the door. Something on the living room coffee table halted his steps. A foldable solar charging panel, palm-sized when compacted. It expanded to roughly 2 A4 sheets wide, fitted with 2 USB ports along its edge. He pulled out his cracked screen phone and plugged it in. The charging icon lit up. Though slow, it worked. Lu Yuan tucked the panel securely inside his jacket. He searched the kitchen thoroughly. All he found in the dry goods cabinet were several packs of vacuum rice noodles, 1 hot pot, and jujubes. The haul was modest, yet better than nothing. Fourth apartment, 5th, 6th. Within 1 hour, he unlocked the doors to 6 residences. Those high-security locks surrendered to him in under 2 minutes. But he dared not linger too long. Time was running out. Shortly after 12:30, the fog visibly thickened, and shadows at the end began to shift. Grabbing his supplies, he sprinted. By the time he clambered back up to the 21st floor, his shirt was soaked through with sweat, and his backpack bulged so full the zipper threatened to burst. He practically dragged himself inside. He dumped all the supplies onto the floor and collapsed onto a folding chair, gasping for breath for a full 5 minutes. The camping lamp cast warm yellow light over the pile of loot. 5 kilograms of rice, 2 boxes of self-heating rice, 2 packs of pasta, several packs of rice noodles, 3 boxes of self-heating hot pot, truffle sauce, foie gras, scallops, coffee, chocolate, jujubes, and the panel. Lu Yuan pushed himself upright using his knees, squatted beside the pile, and counted each item one by one. 5 kilograms of rice could last roughly 10 days if rationed carefully. The 2 boxes of self-heating rice and chocolate would serve as treats. Combined, the pasta, rice noodles, and hot pots could sustain him for about a week. Dried scallops and foie gras were premium. He ran quick calculations in his head, the tension gradually draining from his face. A month's supply. If I ration wisely, this could stretch to 2 months. Lu Yuan muttered to himself. The supply problem was solved. He stood up, brushed dust off his hands, and exhaled deeply. He fished out a box of self-heating rice from the pile, tore it open, added water, and waited. Bubbling sounds emerged as the heating pack activated. He retrieved the solar panel once more, set it beside the coffee table, and plugged in his broken phone. The charging lightning symbol glowed. The battery percentage slowly climbed up from 3%. He knelt before the panel for a long moment, gently touching its surface with cautious care. This thing sold for nearly 1,000 yuan. Now, I wouldn't trade it for any amount of wine. The self-heating rice was ready. He lifted the lid, and rich cured meat aroma washed over him. Each grain of rice stood distinct. The preserved sausages glowed a glossy crimson. He sank back into the folding chair, picked up the container, and scooped a large spoonful into his mouth. Delicious. He quickly finished the whole box. Lu Yuan scraped every last grain from the bottom, crunching down on the crispy rice crust. Once done, he set the empty container on the table, leaned back deep into the chair, and sighed. Lu Yuan narrowed his eyes, oil glistening at the corners of his mouth. He thought to himself, this scavenging trip had been well worth it. 10 o'clock at night. The candlelit dinner had ended. Wrapped in a cashmere shawl, Fang Yaqi curled up on the largest sofa, her cheeks still flushed from alcohol. She rolled over, mumbled something indistinct about dealing with things tomorrow, then fell silent. Tang Shi dozed in the corner with her knees drawn to her chest. The rest sprawled in small groups across sofas and carpets. Some whispered quietly, while others had already closed their eyes. Soon, snores rose up. Light and heavy sounds intertwined. Everyone was asleep. Xu Yuan remained awake. She leaned against the furthest chair in the corner, her back pressed to the wall. Her eyes were half-lidded, her breathing steady as if she slumbered. Her ears, however, stayed sharp, tracking every sound around her. After waiting roughly 40 minutes and confirming everyone remained asleep, Xu Yuan slowly opened her eyes and rose from the chair with extreme care. She wore disposable hotel slippers. Their thin soles barely made any noise against the floorboards. She padded over to the pile of supplies and knelt down to rummage through them. She took 1 bottle of mineral water, 2 packs of compressed biscuits, and 1 tin of luncheon meat, stowing them in a black canvas bag. She walked to the doorway, wrapped her hand around the iron handle, and pulled it open inch by inch, slowly. The metal door creaked ajar. Xu Yuan paused, glanced back, and saw no one stir. She slipped sideways outside into the complete darkness of the corridor. Standing at the doorway, Xu Yuan tightened her grip on the canvas bag straps, drew a deep breath, and began walking toward the left. She knew exactly where Lu Yuan was staying and headed straight there. Inside the apartment, Lu Yuan wore headphones, performing dumbbell bench presses. This luxury apartment complex boasted absurdly comprehensive amenities. A gym sat adjacent to the residential wing, accessible by keycard, featuring treadmills, stationary bikes, a Smith machine, dumbbell racks, and a cable crossover station. Before the doomsday, he had never even stepped foot in a gym, but things were different now. Brutal daily training was a necessity. Working out burned a huge number of calories, yet he no longer worried about food supplies. Physical health was his top priority. In the apocalypse, a single extra second of speed meant survival, and every ounce of strength gained meant greater confidence. He had no intention of hiding away like a rat. One day, he would escape. To survive outside, his body would be his foundation, alongside his system as his other ace in the hole. He set down the dumbbells, took off one headphone, and crouched to stretch. The muscles in his calves were tight. He had just pressed them gently when a faint, muffled sound reached his ears. He froze and turned his head. Tap, tap, tap. Someone was knocking at the door. Lu Yuan stiffened for a split second. He put down the dumbbells, walked to the door, grabbed the fire axe leaning against the corner, and gripped it tightly. Then he pressed his ear against the door panel, listening intently. Breathing sounds came from outside. He did not make a sound, tensing his whole body like a fully drawn bowstring. If the door was smashed open the next second, he would swing the axe without hesitation. He had seen the monsters before. Some could mimic human voices, faking cries for help to lure survivors outside. Over the past 7 days, he had learned a crucial lesson. In the doomsday, verify first, act later. Never trust your ears alone. Lu Yuan, it's me. The voice came again, low and cautious. A moment later, she added softly, Are you inside? Lu Yuan blinked in surprise and peered through the peephole. The circular lens revealed a flustered face, Xiao Yuan. She stood outside the door in a dark coat, clutching a canvas bag. Her hair was messy, and she kept glancing back down the corridor, as if fearing something would follow her. Confirming it was truly her, Lu Yuan lowered the axe, unlocked the door, and pulled it open. Relief washed over Qiao Yuan the moment the door opened. Without waiting for Lu Yuan to speak, she slipped swiftly inside, her movement quick enough to stir a faint breeze. Lu Yuan stepped back to make way, quickly scanning both ends of the empty corridor. Seeing no sign of danger, he locked the door with a click. He turned to face the woman standing in the warm glow of the camping lamp. Qiao Yuan's chest rose and fell rapidly, her breathing unsteady from the tense journey through the dark corridor. Her gentle features were etched with a complex mix of panic, relief, and unyielding resolve. Lu Yuan looked at her. "What are you doing here?" Qiao Yuan stood quietly for a few seconds to steady her breath. She lifted her canvas bag slightly and met his eyes directly, no beating around the bush. "Staying with you gives me a better chance of survival." Lu Yuan said nothing, waiting. "The others won't last long." Qiao Yuan's voice was soft but clear. "Fang Yaqi and her group will run into disaster within a week. I don't want to regret staying with them until it's too late." Lu Yuan watched her, his expression impassive. Qiao Yuan was indeed a smart woman. He had noticed it from day one. In her early 30s, she rarely spoke among the group, yet she was calm, prudent, and extraordinarily intelligent. While others scrambled for water, she mapped out escape routes. While others wept in despair, she counted their remaining supplies. While others froze in fear, she planned their next move. Quiet and unassuming, she was far more perceptive than everyone else around her. Lu Yuan had long believed Qiao Yuan was one of the few in the group worthy of surviving the apocalypse, provided she made the right choice. And she had chosen wisely, coming to seek refuge only hours after he left. A top socialite who once moved in Shanghai's high-end elite circles, she was undeniably shrewd. Still, Lu Yuan did not agree to take her in immediately. Instead, he asked a practical question. "Why should I shelter you? What value can you bring?" Qiao Yuan glanced at him, calm and unflustered. "I've brought supplies with me." She pushed the canvas bag forward slightly. Lu Yuan glanced at the flat bag but made no move to touch it, a faint smile tugging at his lips. He then stood up and nodded toward the storage room. "Follow me." He pushed open the half-closed door and stepped aside. Qiao Yuan followed, and froze the moment she stepped inside. Warm light spilled from the living room, illuminating the full extent of the storage room. 6 cases of mineral water were stacked neatly in place. Beside them, large storage bags were crammed with self-heating rice noodles, pasta, instant noodles, and all kinds of food. In the corner stood several bottles of red wine and a bottle of Matai, scavenged from the lower floors that afternoon. A whole vacuum-packed Iberian ham hung on the wall, alongside countless other supplies piled halfway up the wall. Qiao Yuan stared at the stockpile, her eyes wide with undisguised astonishment. This is only part of what I have." Lu Yuan crossed his arms and leaned against the doorframe, his tone casual. "There are still unlooted households downstairs. I'll bring up more supplies next time." Qiao Yuan tore her gaze from the supplies, studied Lu Yuan's face intently for a few seconds, and smiled. "You truly are someone worth relying on." Lu Yuan said nothing, waiting for her to elaborate. Qiao Yuan understood his unspoken request. "A safe haven in the apocalypse requires careful planning and management," she said steadily. "Someone needs to oversee supply distribution, consumption control, and future scavenging plans. I can handle it." She spoke with quiet confidence, her gaze locked firmly on his. As the former owner of a financial firm, she had years of experience managing funds and personnel. In terms of overall planning and resource management, she was far more professional than Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan neither nodded nor shook his head. "I'm living alone for now. I don't need such meticulous management." Qiao Yuan nodded in understanding. She had anticipated his response. Managing resources for one person was vastly different from managing a group. Her current offer was only a minor bargaining chip, not yet fully useful. She paused, took a step forward, and spoke with complete sincerity. "My value goes far beyond supply management." She looked straight at him, her tone calm and resolute, stripped of all pretense. "The apocalypse is not only about strength and materials. It depends on strategy, connections, and long-term planning. I excel at resource integration, risk assessment, and team coordination. If you ever want to expand our safe haven, recruit more survivors, and build a complete survival system, I will be your most reliable partner. That is my true value." The warm lamplight softened her features. Once a glamorous elite socialite, she had cast off her worldly vanity. She retained only the poise and insight forged by years of navigating high-stakes environments. There was no flattery, no weakness in her words, only a straightforward, mutually beneficial partnership. A faint, calming herbal fragrance lingered in the air. A knowing smile crept onto Lu Yuan's face. Qiao Yuan was sharp and pragmatic. She understood the brutal rules of the apocalypse perfectly, abandoning empty pride to seize real survival opportunities. Once worth hundreds of millions, she had set aside her status and arrogance, choosing cooperation over dependence. Such clarity and decisiveness were rare in this chaotic world. Lu Yuan dropped his probing tone and spoke plainly. I'll take you in and accept your partnership. But there are rules in my safe house. If you stay, you obey my orders. We each do our part, no slacking, to survive together. Qiu Yuan's eyes lit up with determination. She nodded firmly. I understand. I will fully cooperate with you, take charge of all logistics and planning, and prove my worth with actions. The night passed peacefully without disturbance. The next morning, room 201, no dawn broke. The sky was perpetually shrouded in a murky crimson haze. Human circadian rhythms remained, however. By 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, the survivors began to wake one by one. Su Wan was the first to notice Qiu Yuan's absence. She rubbed her eyes, sat up from the carpet, glanced around the room, counted the people present, and froze. Where's Qiu Yuan? Her question jolted the others awake. Everyone scanned the room. The sofa was empty, the corner chair vacant, and the bathroom door stood open, deserted. She wasn't here last night? Tang Shi sat up, her hair messy and disheveled. She was here when I fell asleep. Qini frowned. An awkward silence fell over the group. Then someone muttered, she must have gone to find that security guard. The words shattered the last traces of drowsy camaraderie from the night before. No way. Su Wan's eyes widened in disbelief. She actually went to find Lu Yuan? Where else could she go? The doors are locked, and the corridors are full of monsters. She took supplies with her. Someone rummaged through their stockpile, voice sharp with alarm. A bottle of water, 2 packs of biscuits, a can of food, and her canvas bag are all gone. The room fell silent for 2 full seconds before Fang Yaqi spoke. She went to find Lu Yuan. Fang Yaqi sat up on the sofa, her cashmere shawl slipping down her waist. Though still drowsy, her haughty demeanor returned instantly. She glanced around the room and let out a cold snort. A wealthy woman in her 30s, groveling to a lowly security guard. How humiliating. She's so stupid, Su Wan scoffed. Lu Yuan was nothing but a doorman before the doomsday, and he's still just a doorman now. What could Qiu Yuan possibly gain from him? It's obvious what she's after. Tang Shi rolled her eyes, her tone dripping with contempt. A woman her age is just starved for attention from men. He's the only male around, so she's settling. He acts like some kind of hero just for leading us out a few times, another woman sneered. He's nothing but a brute with a little extra strength. We could survive perfectly well on our own. A curly-haired woman leaned in and whispered, she's abandoned all of us sisters to cling to an outsider. She's forgotten who her real family is. Enough. Fang Yaqi raised a hand, feigning magnanimity. Let her go. We don't need her. 17 of U.S. sisters can survive just fine without her or that security guard. You're right, Yaqi. Good riddance. We'll have more supplies for ourselves now. Let her cling to him. She'll be begging to come back when she regrets it. Bitterness and resentment boiled over among the group. Qiu Yuan's departure ignited all the hidden jealousy and dissatisfaction beneath their fake sisterhood. They hurled insults, calling her traitorous, mocking Lu Yuan for overreaching his station, all while insisting they could thrive independently. Amid the noisy tirade, Lin Mushuang spoke up. Her voice was quiet yet urgent. Yaqi, it's almost noon. Fang Yaqi glanced at her. Shouldn't we go scavenge for supplies today? The room went dead silent in an instant. The cheerful insults died on everyone's lips. Their supplies had dwindled drastically after their feast the previous night. The harsh truth hung over them. Lu Yuan had always been the one to do the heavy lifting. He was the one who braved the corridors, broke into rooms, and carried back supplies while they waited safely indoors. They had mocked him, but everyone knew he was their real provider. Now he was gone. A flicker of panic crossed Fang Yaqi's face, quickly masked by her calm, dismissive tone. There's no rush. We still have food left. We'll rest today and go scavenge tomorrow. Frowns spread across the room immediately. Yaqi, that's too risky, Gulan spoke up. We burned through too many supplies yesterday. We need to restock while we still have the energy. Every day we wait puts us in more danger. She's right, Lin Mushuang added anxiously. Our reserves are nearly gone. The dark fog might grow thicker any day, trapping us inside. Qin sided with them for once. We should go today while we can. I said we rest. Fang Yaqi's voice sharpened, laced with unyielding dominance. She swept her gaze over the dissenters, chin raised. If any of you insist on going, go alone. I won't stop you. Her words silenced everyone. Gulan was a manager by trade, completely unused to physical labor or facing the horrors of the corridors alone. None of the others dared venture into the monster-infested halls by themselves. Suwon stepped in to soothe the tension, her tone airy. You're all overreacting. This building is huge. There's plenty of food to find. Lu Yuan was just wasting our time with his constant scavenging. A lowly security guard can't possibly know more than us. We'll rest up and clear out the whole building tomorrow in one afternoon. Exactly. Tangshur picked up a mirror. I plan on doing my makeup today. We can't let ourselves look like monsters just because the world ended. I have foundation and lipstick too. Can I borrow your mascara? Mine dried up, but I have a new one. The conversation drifted absurdly to cosmetics. Gulan and Lin Mushuang exchanged a helpless glance, choosing to stay silent. The room filled with laughter again. The women gathered around their makeup bags, lighting a new candle whose flickering glow illuminated their made-up faces. They smiled and chatted carelessly, ignoring the horrors outside. Lu Yuan woke naturally to his internal clock. When he opened his eyes groggily, the camping lamp had long gone out. The room was only dimly lit by a dark red glow seeping through the crack in the curtains. He lay on the bedroom bed, covered by the quilt. The mattress beneath him was so soft that every bone in his body seemed to protest. He shifted, and waves of soreness washed over him. His legs ached, his waist ached, and the muscles on his back felt as if they had been wrung tight. He tried lifting an arm. A taut, dull strain spread across his shoulders, the kind of exhaustion after overexertion. Lu Yuan lay on the pillow, staring at the ceiling and exhaling slowly. He turned his head to glance beside him. Qiu Yuan was still asleep. She lay on her side, the quilt wrapped up to her shoulders. One hand rested beside the pillow, her breathing long and steady, a faint blush still lingering on her cheeks. A strand of hair spilled across the pillow, softening her features. Lu Yuan watched her for 2 seconds before slowly sitting up and leaning against the headboard. The sheet slid down to his waist. He glanced down at his chest. Faint scratch marks ran along his arms, and a bruise marked his flank. These were the marks of last night's frenzy, from the living room to the kitchen, the gym to the bathroom, and finally onto this bed. Qiu Yuan's figure and looks were undeniably overwhelming. Those curves were honed to peak maturity. Her supple waist, her eager initiative, and the quiet, breathless, "Don't stop," she whispered through gritted teeth at times. Just thinking about it made Lu Yuan's temples throb. He hadn't fallen asleep until 4 or 5 in the early morning, and Qiu Yuan had stayed awake even later. In the end, she'd collapsed straight onto his chest, too worn out to lift her arms. They'd fallen asleep tangled together like that. Lu Yuan pulled out a cigarette, grabbed a lighter off the nightstand, and lit it. The hissing of burning tobacco sounded startlingly clear in the quiet bedroom. With the cigarette between his lips, he silently prompted sign in. Words flickered across the panel. Sign in successful. Obtained grade B supplies. Reinforced alloy set grade B $\$ $1, including heavy-duty anti-theft door bolt, anti-pry steel strips, explosion-proof lock cylinder, window frame reinforcement fasteners. Obtained attribute point. Stamina +1 current stamina. $8 / Riter $9. Obtained talent. Enhanced perception greatly sharpens the 5 senses, passive effect. Grade B supplies? That seemed pretty good. Lu Yuan looked at the 3 lines of text, a flicker of surprise crossing his face. The next moment, a warm sensation spread from his chest, flowing through his blood vessels to every corner of his body. It was comforting warmth, and the soreness all over his body seemed to vanish. Lu Yuan sat still for 2 seconds, then threw off the quilt and jumped out of bed. Standing barefoot on the floor, he stretched his arms and legs. Strength surged inside him like a fully charged battery. He felt so energized he couldn't help bouncing lightly on the spot. Good as new again. He turned to look at Qiu Yuan, still sound asleep in bed. She must have been utterly exhausted. She hadn't woken even when he'd thrown back the covers and gotten up. In his current state, Lu Yuan was confident he could go another 100 rounds with her. Of course, he had no intention of disturbing her. He pushed the thought aside. She was far too tired and needed rest. Lu Yuan turned his attention to the supplies he had just received. A large toolbox had appeared on the living room coffee table. He opened it. 4 thickened steel strips, 2 sets of explosion-proof lock cylinders, a box of door bolt fasteners, several window frame reinforcement fittings, plus a rechargeable electric drill and matching expansion bolts. These materials were enough for him to reinforce the shelter from the inside out. Even if whatever lurked outside rammed against the door later, they wouldn't break through quickly. At the same time, he could feel his senses shifting. Faint noises grew sharp and distinct. He could hear wind rushing through a broken window on some floor outside, the whistling sound as air squeezed through cracks in the frame. He would never have noticed such sounds before. Now every one of them reached his ears. Lu Yuan stood in the living room, focused, then opened his eyes. System, you're a lifesaver. Once he'd composed himself, he checked the time, 10:30. There was still an hour and a half until the 12 noon window. His stamina had fully recovered after the sign-in, all weariness swept away. Qiu Yuan would likely sleep straight through until the afternoon. Perfect timing. Lu Yuan walked back into the bedroom and leaned down to pull the quilt higher over Qiu Yuan, covering her exposed shoulders. He then turned and left the bedroom, taking his coat from behind the door and slipping it on. Backpack, flashlight, steel wire, thin metal sheets, fire axe, steel pipe, he strapped each item securely. He checked his gear by the doorway, then pulled open the door, slipped outside sideways, and closed it gently. The corridor was engulfed in darkness. When Lu Yuan reached the stairwell, he closed his eyes to sense his surroundings. His hearing was vastly more sensitive than before. On the 19th floor, something moved slowly. It produced the rustle of fabric dragging across the ground. From the stairwell on the 17th floor came an almost imperceptible rhythm of breathing, as if some creature slumbered there. But between the 18th, 19th, and 20th floors, nothing blocked his path. Lu Yuan opened his eyes, gripped the fire axe tightly, and headed down. Let's go. Time to harvest more supplies. The 18th floor remained normal. The black mist hanging in the air was much like yesterday, a thin layer clinging close to the ground. Yet when he stepped onto the final stair and reached the corridor entrance of the 17th floor, his heart skipped a beat. The atmosphere on the 17th floor sent a chill down Lu Yuan's spine. The black mist was far denser than the previous day. When he had scouted this area yesterday, the fog had been thin, resembling ordinary haze on a cloudy day. He could barely make out silhouettes several meters away. Now, the entire corridor looked as though it had been drenched in ink. Gray-black mist hung thick everywhere, no layers separating it. Peering inward from the stairwell, the walls just 3 meters away were nothing more than blurry shadows. The corrosive stench in the air had also grown stronger. He stayed put and focused. As perception unfolded, he mapped out most of the corridor on the 17th floor in his mind. No obvious movement, no footsteps, no breathing, none of the slimy dragging sounds unique to monsters. Yet an unsettling feeling lingered, hard to put into words, as if countless unseen eyes were fixed on him. His senses were far sharper now. Tiny signals he once failed to detect clung to his nerves like cobwebs. Lu Yuan opened his eyes and reached a conclusion. He could continue searching here, but he could not stay long. With the mist thickening this rapidly, lingering would undoubtedly bring trouble. He edged forward along the wall, pushed open the first door, and scanned the room quickly. Inside the bedroom nightstand, he found an unopened box of vitamin tablets. Beneath the TV cabinet, he touched 2 strips of batteries, roughly 8 or 9 cells in total. In the kitchen, he discovered nuts and milk. The milk was past its printed expiry date, but after sniffing it, he confirmed it hadn't spoiled and was still drinkable. Second household. On the living room coffee table sat an unopened box of cookies and several packets of instant milk tea. He stuffed everything into his backpack. From the bathroom cabinet, he took toilet paper. Third household. The resident was likely an outdoor enthusiast. In the corner of the storage room rested 2 small camping gas canisters and matching portable stove burners. Lu Yuan's eyes lit up at the sight. He quickly packed them away. He searched 4 households, spending roughly 20 minutes. The mist kept growing thicker. Standing in the middle of the corridor, he could no longer make out the house numbers through the haze. Every breath he took carried a metallic tang, and his throat felt stuffed with damp cotton. Just then, Lu Yuan froze mid-step. He felt it. That sensation of being watched surged from all directions, like countless fine needles pricking his skin at once. The fog was too thick to see anything, but his perception spread outward like a net, catching those gazes. Their sources lay hidden in the darkness flanking the corridor, deep within the densest mist. There were many of them, at least 7 or 8. He had no idea what they were. What made Lu Yuan's back turn cold was that they did not move. Those stairs simply hung suspended in the thick fog, fixed silently upon him. No breathing, no footsteps, no growls, only steady, unwavering focus. It was as if a row of cameras were aimed straight at him. Lu Yuan could sense them standing there, their outlines concealed by the black mist. He could not see them, yet he knew they were present. This complete stillness was far more terrifying than being chased. He slowly stepped backward. The intensity of the gazes neither rose nor fell, pressing against his perception with the same weight. He kept retreating. Once he reached the stair entrance, he stopped moving slowly. Turning around, he sprinted upward 3 steps at a time. He raced back to the 21st floor in little time. He burst through the door into the shelter, locked it, and leaned against the panel gasping for breath. His shirt was soaked through with sweat. The metallic taste lingered in his throat. He swallowed repeatedly to ease the discomfort. He closed his eyes and sensed the surroundings. The feeling was gone. Lu Yuan remained leaning against the door for a long while until his rapid breathing steadied. He glanced down at his backpack. Vitamin tablets, batteries, nuts, 2 cartons of milk, cookies, instant milk tea, toilet paper, 2 camping gas canisters, and 1 portable stove burner. It was a decent haul. Rationed carefully, it would sustain him for 8 to 10 days. He walked over to the coffee table and laid out every item one by one. Then he sank into the folding chair, clutching the stove burner in his hand, his mind still lingering on those shadowy presences in the thick mist. He leaned back in the chair, recalling that eerie sensation of being observed. There had been no hostility, no killing intent, only watching, like an audience gathered outside a cage, quietly and patiently observing the creature trapped within. I can't go down to the 17th floor anymore. From now on, the 18th will be my limit. Lu Yuan was about to get a glass of water when a fragrant aroma drifted into his nostrils. The savory sizzle of fried food mixed with chopped green onion drifted over from the kitchen. He camped, walked forward, and pushed open the half-sliding kitchen door. Qiu Yuan stood with her back toward him. Blue flames from the portable gas stove lapped the bottom of a frying pan. 2 slices of ham sizzled inside, alongside an egg. The egg white had set, its edges lightly browned. She wore an apron, dug up from somewhere, light blue floral fabric tied into a bow at her waist. She had also changed clothes, light blue casual homeware woven from cotton and linen. Her sleeves were rolled up to her forearms, and the loose neckline exposed her collarbones. Her messy hair from the previous night was now braided into a single plait, falling over one shoulder, swaying gently. Lu Yuan stood in the doorway watching for 2 seconds. A woman in her early 30s, naturally curvy, the homeware clung to her frame in eye-catching lines. Yet as she bent to tend the fried egg, her movements were soft and gentle. With the braid resting against her shoulder, she radiated domestic warmth. Even dressed like this, Qiu Yuan's poise as an elite socialite could not be hidden. Instead, it created a striking contrast. Lu Yuan walked up behind her and slipped his arms around her waist. Qiu Yuan let out a soft gasp when he embraced her, the spatula halting mid-motion. But she quickly recognized him from the pressure and warmth of the hug. She turned her head slightly, not pulling away, and asked gently, "You're back. Did you run into any danger?" She continued flipping the ham, and the concern in her voice was impossible to mask. She understood better than anyone that Lu Yuan was her only hope. If something happened to him, she would not survive 2 days alone in this building. "I'm fine." Lu Yuan rested his chin on her shoulder, breathing in the scent of shampoo in her hair. After a brief pause, he added heavier context. "But things are likely going to grow more dangerous. The black mist downstairs is rising upward, far denser than yesterday. The 17th floor is caught up and barely habitable now." Lu Yuan's tone turned heavier. "At this rate, it won't be long before it reaches the 20th floor." Qiu Yuan fell silent. She scooped the fried ham and egg out of the pan onto a white porcelain plate and turned off the stove. Only then did she turn her head to meet Lu Yuan's gaze, offering a tender smile. "It's all right," she said. "With you here, I fear nothing." Her voice was soft, yet her gaze steady. No exaggerated expressions. She spoke plainly, as casually as commenting on pleasant weather. Yet the words warmed Lu Yuan's heart. No wonder she navigated high society so effortlessly. She was beautiful and emotionally intelligent, able to offer steady comfort with a single sentence. Lu Yuan smiled, tightening his hold and drawing her closer against him. His hands rested at her waist, brushing the soft curves of her hips. Through the thin cotton linen fabric, the warm, firm sensation shot straight to his head. Trapped in his embrace, Qiu Yuan clearly felt his reaction. She froze for a moment, still holding the plate, and glanced back at him with a look that held equal parts surprise and helpless amusement. "You," she hesitated. "We already did so much last night." "Last night was last night." Lu Yuan pressed his chin into the crook of her shoulder. Qiu Yuan pressed her lips together. A swirl of complicated emotions crossed her face before she sighed softly. "You have far too much stamina." Her tone carried a faint trace of melancholy. She had witnessed his endurance the night before, yet she never expected him to recover completely so soon. "Don't you want me to?" Lu Yuan asked. Qiu Yuan smiled. "Of course I do. I belong to you now. You can do whatever you wish." Lu Yuan grinned. "How could I hold back around you?" He leaned close and whispered, "A top socialite worth hundreds of millions, crossing class boundaries." Qiu Yuan's cheeks flushed faintly at his words. She turned her head to shoot him a glance, though there was no real anger in it, only playful reproach. Forget socialites. Her voice dropped, heavy with soft longing. Right now, I'm yours. She did not finish, but the meaning was clear. He did not loosen his grip. Instead, he pulled her even tighter against him. Qiu Yuan remained encircled by him from behind, standing before the stove with the plate of freshly fried ham and egg resting nearby. Moments later, Qiu Yuan bent forward slowly over the kitchen countertop. Elsewhere, apartment 201, a full day of rest had passed. No one stepped outside to scavenge supplies. 17 people huddled inside the 200-square-meter apartment, each trying to pass the increasingly tedious time. I want to take a shower. Suwon's words brought a moment of silence. She stood by the bathroom doorway, golden wavy hair falling over her shoulders. Her makeup was carefully touched up, lipstick freshly reapplied. But her expression was sour. Frowning, she repeated herself in a tone of exasperation. I haven't bathed in 3 days. I feel terrible. I'm showering today. We don't have running water. Qin replied, leaning against the opposite wall and clutching a half-empty bottle of mineral water. Look at the taps. The supply cut off ages ago. Use bottled mineral water then. Suwon said matter-of-factly. We still have several cases, don't we? Qin frowned. This suggestion struck her as completely unreasonable. That water is for drinking, she said. You want to shower with mineral water? How many bottles would one bath take? An entire case wouldn't suffice. What will we drink once it's gone? We can't just waste it. Can't we just find more water once we run out? Suwon waved her hand. There are so many households in this building. Every family has a few cases of water, don't they? Bottled mineral water is everywhere. Is there any need to be so stingy about it? Qin was left speechless by her words. It took her 2 seconds to reply. It's easy for you to say that. We had leftover water when Lu Yuan was here a few days ago, but that's only because he carried it up. Who's going to haul it now? We can go get some tomorrow. It's not a big deal. As Suwon spoke, she reached for the supply crate to grab some water. Wait. Gulan stood up from a chair in the corner. Her tone was calm, yet the aura forged from years in the business world overpowered Suwon instantly. Suwon, Qin is right. The mineral water is for us to drink, not for bathing. If we ration a whole case, it can last several days. You'd drain it all in one shower. Suwon's expression stiffened. She shot Gulan a glance and did not dare talk back outright, but she pouted and mumbled. There's no need to make such a big fuss over nothing. It's just a shower. This is not overreacting, Gulan said steadily yet firmly. Supplies are supplies. We have to prioritize how and where we use them. Her words hung in the air. Suwon's irritation lingered, but several others spoke up in her defense. Sister Lan, you're being far too tense. Tangshur sat up from the carpet and casually fiddled with her fingernails. I used Evian just to wash my face before. Bottled water isn't all that rare. Exactly, another woman chimed in. We all lived in places like this. Who didn't use premium water back then? Qin, don't call me dramatic. I remember your family only used imported water for brewing tea. It's normal to worry about supplies, but being overly anxious will just make everyone miserable, someone else added. It's only one case of water. We can head down tomorrow to get more. No need to act as if we're about to die of thirst. Gulan stared at the women crowding around to defend Suwon. She pressed her lips together and said no more. She could tell that to these people, the so-called supply shortage was still viewed as something easily fixed by a trip to the supermarket tomorrow. They kept saying they would look for water tomorrow, yet none of them knew what conditions were like downstairs. Fang Yaqi had been leaning back on the main sofa listening all this time. Once the arguing died down, she spoke slowly. All right, everyone, stop fighting. She sat up straighter, adjusted her shawl, and swept her gaze across the room. Her tone was gentle, as if soothing children. We're all sisters. Is it worth bickering non-stop over such trivial matters? The room fell silent, all eyes turning to her. I understand the urge to take a shower. Fang Yaqi glanced at Suwon. It truly is uncomfortable going days without washing. But Sister Gulan also has a point. We need to conserve supplies. She paused and smiled, offering a solution. Here's what we'll do. Hold on for today. Tomorrow, we'll all go out together to search for supplies. We'll bring back plenty and stock the apartment to the brim. Once we have enough water and food, you can shower as often and as long as you like. So let's put an end to this argument for now. Rest up and save your energy for a big scavenge tomorrow. Suwon's temper faded after hearing Fang Yaqi's compromise. Her expression softened. She muttered fine, turned around and sat back down, dropping the topic of showering. Qin also fell silent. She set the water bottle beside the supply pile and sat down. The dispute dispersed just like that. Yet Gulan stood in the corner. She watched Fang Yaqi lean back against the sofa to close her eyes. Then she looked at Su Wan and Tang Shi discussing what shoes would be easiest to wear downstairs tomorrow. Her gaze drifted to the supply crates, which were noticeably depleted. Her mouth tightened. No emotion showed on her face, yet a cold chill rose inside her. When these women gathered, they talked of sisterhood, unity, and sticking together. But the moment real troubles arose, they fractured immediately. Some craved showers, others prioritized drinking water. Some thought supplies were abundant, while others refused to lift a finger and expected others to provide for them. They claimed they would search for supplies tomorrow, yet no one brought up who would lead the way, where to go, or what to do if they encountered monsters. Fang Yaqi had swept all conflicts under the rug with a simple, "We'll deal with it tomorrow," never stopping to think about how they would survive that tomorrow. Gulan turned her head. Through a gap in the curtains, she glimpsed the dark crimson sky outside. Qiu Yuan had made the right choice to leave. If they stayed here much longer, this group might not survive a week, and she herself needed to seriously consider her other option. Elsewhere, a stark contrast to the noisy chaos in Unit 201 hung over Lu Yuan's safe house, silence. Qiu Yuan had been worn out completely over the day. She only managed to fall asleep around 4 or 5 in the early hours. After waking, Lu Yuan pulled her against him by the waist before they made love. More rounds followed after their meal, draining every last bit of her stamina. When it was over, she stepped out of the shower, collapsed onto the bed, and fell fast asleep. Lu Yuan, however, still brimmed with energy. Enhanced by the system, his strength and endurance had grown exponentially. He took out the large toolbox rewarded by the system and set to work. Tools were laid out before him. For thickened steel bars, 2 sets of anti-explosion lock cylinders, a box of door bolt latches, several window frame reinforcement fittings, a rechargeable electric drill, and a pack of expansion bolts. Lu Yuan picked up the drill and weighed it in his hand. He held up a steel bar to measure its length, forming a rough plan in his mind. He stood and began reinforcing the doors and windows of the safe house. He worked nonstop for an hour. He was only halfway finished and about to take a break when, thud, someone knocked on the door. Lu Yuan's grip on the drill jolted. He straightened up, staying quiet, ears pricked to listen. No other sounds came from outside, but the knock sounded a second time. Thud, thud, thud. 3 steady knocks, slow and unrushed, as if someone was casually tapping the doorway. Alarm flared in Lu Yuan's mind. He grabbed the fire axe leaning against the wall, gripped it tight with the blade forward. He crouched, crept toward the door, and pressed himself against the wall to the side. He avoided standing directly in front of it, pressing his eye to the peephole. The circular view was shrouded in murky black. Thick black fog filled the corridor, far denser than when he had gone scavenging for supplies. A figure stood outside the door. Its outline was blurred, wrapped within the mist. He could not make out its face or clothes. He could barely distinguish a human shape, standing motionless, facing the door. 5 seconds passed. The figure did not leave, nor did it knock again. It simply remained there. Lu Yuan lowered his voice and spoke. "Who's there?" Silence stretched on for 2 seconds outside. Then the blurry figure moved, as if tilting its head toward the peephole. A voice drifted out of the fog, intermittent and hoarse, yet undeniably human. I live on the 18th floor." Lu Yuan did not loosen his hold on the axe. "I fled up from downstairs." The voice continued slowly. "Can you help me? Just open the door and give me some food." A resident from the 18th floor. Lu Yuan's mind raced. He had visited the 18th floor many times. Though several apartments remained unsearched, he had checked most of them. There was no way anyone alive could still be there. Lu Yuan stared at the figure through the peephole. After 2 seconds of silence, he said, "We have no food here. Go further down the corridor to Unit 201. It's a large shelter with plenty of supplies inside." The figure outside paused. "Unit 201, further down the corridor." The voice repeated his words, as if processing the information. Then it slowly turned and shuffled deeper into the corridor. Its movements were sluggish and stiff, like a long, unlubricated machine grinding back into motion. Footsteps faded away step by step. Lu Yuan stayed pressed beside the door, watching through the peephole. Only once the blurry figure vanished from sight did he exhale a long breath. "It can talk," he muttered, heavy solemnity lacing his tone. All the monsters he had encountered before could only howl, let out shrill screams that prickled the scalp before lunging to bite. This one was different. It knocked, spoke, begged for food. If Lu Yuan had not known for certain no survivors remained on the 18th floor, he might have believed it. The world of the apocalypse was gradually changing. Once there were only monsters, yet now these eerie, speaking creatures had appeared. Conditions were growing grimmer by the day, but there was nothing he could do to alter the world. All he could do was keep reinforcing his safe house. Whatever the thing was, as long as it left him alone, he did not care. His next task was to seal his door tight. Once all the work was done, Lu Yuan took a shower. It was nearly time to rest. He returned to the bedroom. Qiu Yuan lay on the bed, her clothes askew, revealing smooth, pale skin. At the sight of her alluring figure, a faint smile tugged at Lu Yuan's lips. Having a woman beside you made all the difference in the apocalypse, especially a refined woman. The sense of accomplishment and delight when she submitted beneath him could not be matched by anything else. It brought him immense joy. Lu Yuan climbed onto the bed, wrapped an arm around Qiu Yuan's slender waist, and slowly drifted off to sleep. The window of clear daylight would arrive soon. He would rest for now, then move when the time came. Inside Unit 201, Fang Yaqi sat on the main sofa with a grave expression. For once, she took the initiative to summon everyone for a meeting. They could not delay any longer. It was time to act and gather supplies. Everyone, listen to me. Fang Yaqi cleared her throat. There must still be supplies downstairs. We have to carry them up before the black fog rises completely. The midday window of clear visibility is almost here. It's the perfect time to move. We'll split into teams, divide the work, and act fast. Her words were refreshingly pragmatic. Though they had lived pampered lives, they were not foolish. They knew if they did not retrieve goods from the lower floors soon, they would never get the chance again. But the moment they moved on to assigning specific tasks, chaos erupted. I can carry supplies. I've got decent strength. Qini spoke first, sounding eager. How much can you haul? Lin Muxue crossed her arms and asked. I can carry 3 or 4 bottles of water. 3 or 4 bottles. Are you joking with me? Lin Muxue widened her eyes. If we only bring up that little per trip, how many times will we need to head down? Well, then you carry them. If you're so capable, you go. I never said I wouldn't. I'm talking about efficiency. You have no right to plan anything. You haven't even seen what downstairs looks like. Enough? Fang Yaqi raised her hand to cut them off. Muxue, you and Qin form a team to transport supplies. Sister Yaqi, Lin Muxue instantly softened her tone, speaking in a coaxing whine. I barely slept last night. My legs feel weak. Can I be the navigator? I have a good sense of direction. I can lead everyone the right way. Before Fang Yaqi could reply, Tang Shi cut in. What about me? I'm short. The stairwell is pitch black, and I'm scared of falling. Can I wait at the doorway? I can sort everything once you carry them up. Receive supplies my foot. Suwon rolled her eyes. You just want to stand around and wait for others to bring everything to you. Then you go. If you're so tough, head downstairs. I will. Suwon cut herself off mid-sentence. She glanced toward the door, and her voice weakened. But don't make me walk far. The stairwell is so dark. What if there are monsters if I'm alone? You're just waiting for others to work too. I'm just being cautious. Their argument grew fiercer, and the others joined. I can run fast, but I get lost easily. I'll team up with you. I know the way. You? Yesterday you wandered into the bathroom and couldn't find the exit. The bathroom door got stuck, that's all. My back hurts. I can't lift heavy things. What's the point of you coming down then? Sightseeing. I can cheer everyone on. Cheering won't stop us from starving. The room erupted into overlapping chatter. More than a dozen women spoke at once, their voices buzzing louder than a market square. Some wanted to bring backpacks. Others mentioned trainers, yet none had any with them. One woman suggested twisting bed sheets into ropes to hoist supplies upward, but the idea was immediately rejected. No one knew how to tie proper knots. Fang Yaqi sat on the sofa. Her expression stiffened bit by bit. She tried shouting for quiet, telling everyone to listen and organize teams, yet her voice was drowned out by louder bickering every time. Gulan sat in the farthest corner, knees pulled to her chest, watching the spectacle without bothering to speak. She watched them argue for nearly half an hour. Not a single task had been assigned. A heavy weariness washed over her, not physical exhaustion, but the draining feeling of watching a crowd circle an empty pot, heatedly debating whether to use an iron spoon or wooden spoon to serve rice. Before they could reach any conclusion, a knock echoed. Thud, thud, thud. The sound was soft, yet startlingly clear amid the raucous noise, like a pin pricking a balloon. Falling silent in an instant, everyone twisted toward the doorway, faces filled with surprise. Who could be knocking at this hour? It must be Qiu Yuan, Suwon guessed. She jumped to a conclusion, a mocking smirk tugging at her lips. She couldn't survive over at Lu Yuan's place, so she's slinking back to beg us. Really does sound like it, Tang Shi replied lightly. I told you so. What can a lowly security guard protect her from? He must have grown bored of her and thrown her out. They call her a top socialite in Shanghai, worth hundreds of millions, yet she has no common sense at all. She only had 2 packs of biscuits and 1 bottle of water. Lu Yuan must have stolen her supplies. She's starved enough to come crawling back. TSK, she left so resolutely before, and now she returns just as quickly. This kind of woman only comes to her senses after being tricked by a man. Should we even let her back in? Absolutely not. Turn her away. The group traded mocking remarks, growing more carried away. A woman with long curly hair stood and walked toward the door, reaching for the doorknob. I'll open it and see. Her face must be a sight right now. Wait. Gulan strode over and caught her wrist. Her touch was gentle yet unyielding, pulling the hand away from the knob. Don't open it yet. Gulan lowered her voice, her expression stern. What if it's a monster? Let's check first. Her words hit them like a bucket of cold water. Several women fell silent. They exchanged glances, the excitement of anticipating someone's misfortune fading. Over the past 2 days, they had busied themselves with candlelit meals, makeup, gossip, and quarrels, nearly forgetting what the world outside was really like. They had forgotten the sounds of predators hunting, the screams drifting up that night. They had almost forgotten they lived through an apocalypse. Gulan's reminder snapped them back to reality, and unease prickled every spine. Ignoring their reactions, Gulan stepped to the door and spoke quietly. Who's there? Silence lingered outside for several seconds. Then a hoarse voice drifted in. I live on the 18th floor. I fled up from downstairs. Could you spare some food? A resident from the 18th floor? Fong Yaki spoke up. She held herself with the authority of a leader, her tone probing. Are you a man or a woman? The voice outside stalled, as if caught off guard by the question. It took a long time to reply. Suwon cut in immediately. Does it even need asking? That voice is clearly a man's. Her comment ignited an uproar among the sisters. A man? We cannot let him in. Exactly. One Lu Yuan is already more trouble than we can handle. Men are the most dangerous in the apocalypse. Anyone can pretend to be helpless. We have no idea what he would do once inside. We learned our lesson. No men allowed. Fong Yaki nodded, cleared her throat, and called toward the door. If you're a man, leave at once. This is an all-female shelter. We do not take in any men. Go look elsewhere. Silence descended over the other side of the door. It lasted a very long time. It had been so long that those inside the room began to wonder if he had already left. Then the voice spoke again, slower this time, as if weighing every single word carefully. Actually, I'm transgender. A beat of silence fell. Even though I appear male on the surface, the voice went on. I have always wanted to be a woman. The words hit like a bucket of water tossed into sizzling oil, and chaos erupted in an instant. Transgender? Is that true? Tang Shi's eyes widened first. Wow, so deep down, she's always been a girl. Someone clutched their chest. That must have been so hard. A woman's soul trapped in a man's body. Isn't she a sister oppressed by a patriarchal society? She's completely on our side. Inside, she's already one of us. I used to follow a transgender content creator. She was so brave. Her spiritual awakening was truly admirable. If she identifies as a woman inside, then she is fundamentally a woman. She's nothing like those awful men. Good heavens, she climbed all the way up from the 18th floor and endured so many horrific things. Now she's standing outside the door begging us in such a humble tone. Doesn't anyone feel for her? My heart aches for her. Open the door. Don't make our sister wait out there too long. As they talked, several women surged toward the doorway. Some even began rummaging through their stockpiles for food, muttering, "Get something ready for her. Let her in first, and we'll sort everything out later." Stop right there. Gulan stood in the doorway, spreading her arms to block them, her back pressed against the door panel. She raised her voice several notches. Have all of you lost your minds? Transgender? Have any of you even laid eyes on him? Do you know if what's standing outside is human or something else entirely? Lan Jia. Tang Shi pouted. Why do you have to be such a buzzkill? They already said they're transgender. You believe whatever you're told? Gulan stared at her, her gaze sharper than a blade. What if he's lying to you? What if he isn't human at all, only mimicking human speech? Are you really going to open the door? Are you really going to open the door and let him in? Her words halted the women who had rushed up to the entrance. They exchanged glances. Their enthusiasm faded a little. Yet their faces still bore the expression that read, "You're being far too suspicious." They had seen the monsters before. None of them could speak. Whoever was outside sounded nothing like a monster. The voice from the doorway rang out once more, trembling slightly. I'm not a bad person. I just want to find some food. I truly admire all of you, independent and strong. I want to be just like you. This statement was like dropping a lump of sugar into a honey pot. rekindling fervor in those who had only just calmed down. Listen to that. How sincere. She must carry so much pain inside, enduring the agony of identity on top of surviving in this world alone. I just want to hug her. Don't be afraid, sister. We're opening the door for you right now. Several women moved around Gulan, reaching for the doorknob. Gulan stood her ground in the doorway. She stumbled backward as they pushed against her, yet she refused to step aside, gripping the handle tightly. Do not open it. Gulan's voice turned hoarse as she twisted to shout at the group. Have all of you gone mad? You'd be sold and still help count the money for the trafficker. You don't even know what waits outside this door. But no one listened. The women crowded around the doorway, chattering, urging her to move. They claimed that refusing to let the newcomer in meant discriminating against transgender people, that she was creating division, that her thinking was old-fashioned and backward. Surrounded by shouting voices, Gulan's ears buzzed. Multiple hands strained to twist the doorknob alongside hers. A faint click echoed from the lock. The moment several hands wrapped around the handle and pulled outward, a cold voice cut through the noise from behind the crowd. I dare anyone to open that door. The voice was quiet, yet icy enough. It was as if an ice shard had driven straight down from above, piercing a hole through the room's uproar. Everyone froze. All movements halted, and heads turned involuntarily toward the speaker. The woman speaking stood half a step beside Fong Yaqi, her arms folded, leaning against the wall. She was stunningly beautiful, clad in a sleek black suit with long hair, one hand tucked into her pocket. She was tall, towering over most women in the room by nearly half a head, radiating overwhelming authority. Her name was Zhang Bing, Fong Yaqi's assistant. Publicly, she was a personal assistant, but in truth, she was her bodyguard. Before the end of the world, she had traveled with Fong Yaqi for 5 years, pulling her through countless crises. Much of Fong Yaqi's confidence to lead this all-female group stemmed from this woman. At her words, silence crashed over the room. Suwon's hand hung suspended in midair. Her lips parted as if to speak. Zhang Bing's gaze drifted over and settled calmly on her face. Suwon's Adam's apple bobbed, and she pulled her hand back. Tang Shi also stepped back slightly, pretending to fix her hair, not daring to meet Zhang Bing's eyes. Zhang Bing, Tang Shi forced a nervous laugh. Hear me out. The person outside said they are transgender. I heard. Zhang Bing's tone remained flat. Then tell me, is a transgender person considered male or female? Tang Shi opened her mouth. Deep inside she is. I asked whether they count as male or female. Zhang Bing cut her off, her tone unchanged. Tang Shi fell silent. The room grew deathly quiet. Candle flames flickered, stretching everyone's shadows into twisted shapes along the walls. All the heated chatter about sisters, brave souls and kindred spirits was completely snuffed out by Zhang Bing's impassive face and those 3 simple questions. Fong Yaqi cleared her throat and stepped forward half a pace to stand beside Zhang Bing. She looked down at the crowd, a knowing smirk tugging at her lips. She held a smirk, as if she had anticipated this exact scene. I have said it before. Any person born male, Fong Yaqi spoke gently, yet every word was crisp and deliberate, is forbidden entry into our all-female shelter. It would be a defilement. That includes transgender people. Labels do not change anything. A man is still a man, full of cunning and unclean. She uttered the final word unclean softly, as if speaking of something beneath her consideration. Suwon stood within the crowd, her cheeks flushed. She was usually the first to heap compliments on Fong Yaqi, yet this time she could not hold back. The transgender stranger's story had struck a chord deep inside her. It reminded her of the brave creators she followed online, of the suffering that community endured from society's rejection. Yaqi Jia. She forced herself to speak, her voice reduced to half its original volume. I don't think you're right to say that. They are transgender. They are nothing like those terrible men. They have been persecuted by society and suffered enough. Isn't our all-female shelter meant to accept oppressed women? That's right, Yaqi Jia. Another woman whispered in agreement. I think Suwon has a point. They are the sisters we ought to stand up for. We can't deny someone's female identity just because of their outward appearance. How is that any different from people who discriminate against transgender people? I think we could let her come in. One more sister means more strength for all of us. The remarks drifted out haltingly. Those speaking lacked conviction, yet they voiced their thoughts all the same. Several women exchanged glances, the glow of naive compassion still lingering in their eyes. Zhang Bing said nothing. She unfolded her crossed arms and let them hang loosely at her sides. She took one step forward. Only a single step. Her soul struck the floor with a sharp, clear sound. The room instantly fell silent, as if someone had pressed pause. Suwon shrank back half a step. Those who had just voiced agreement also ducked their heads, no one daring to speak further. Zhang Bing positioned herself between the doorway and the crowd, blocking the entire passage alone. No matter what waits outside that door, she said evenly, without emotion. Anyone who tries to open it will have to get past me first. No one moved. The air remained frozen for roughly a dozen seconds. The shadow outside stayed quiet too, as if weighing its options through the wooden door. Then muffled muttering drifted through the crack beneath the frame, disjointed syllables tangled together, unintelligible. Still, the tone carried an unmistakable sense of loss and resentment. The voice faded, growing more distant. It sounded as though the shadow wandered slowly toward the far end of the corridor, talking to itself. Its footsteps dragged, heavy and lumbering, one slow thud after another, until they vanished completely after a long while. Gulan leaned back against the door, resting her full weight on the panel. She let out a long breath only once the footsteps could no longer be heard. One way or another, this crisis had passed. But if they escaped this time, what about the next? There was no telling. How much longer would this so-called all-female group manage to survive in the end times? Elsewhere, inside the shelter, Lu Yuan stuffed his last piece of gear into his backpack. He zipped it shut, stood, and tested its weight. It was not overly heavy, yet he had packed everything essential. He packed a water canteen, hardtack, bandages, rope, a steel pipe, and a fire axe. He rolled his shoulders, checking that none of his equipment hung loose, then turned toward the bedroom doorway. Chiu Yuan walked out. She had changed into new clothes. The zipper of her black tracksuit jacket was pulled up to her chest, her hair tied into a neat ponytail. She wore sweatpants and running shoes, looking a little more alert than before. Still, her complexion was poor. There was barely any color in her lips, and she took slower steps than usual. Her beautiful legs seemed weak and unsteady. Lu Yuan glanced her over and frowned. Are you sure you can manage? Do you want to rest another day? Since Chiu Yuan had come to him, he had pushed her far too hard. Time and time again. Lu Yuan had a system that boosted his stamina and sped up his recovery, but Chiu Yuan was an ordinary human woman, soft and delicate. It was inevitable that this would take its toll on her. Chiu Yuan lifted her head and forced a smile. I'm fine. I'll do anything as long as there is food to eat. That was the truth. In the end times, people would work for a single mouthful. It was the most basic rule of survival. This was where Chiu Yuan's intelligence showed. She was not pretentious or haughty. She understood what she needed to do. She also understood what she needed to give in return. Lu Yuan nodded. Let's go. Chiu Yuan breathed a quiet The two pushed open the door and walked along the corridor toward the fire escape. Lu Yuan led the way, with Chiu Yuan half a step behind him. Footsteps, one light and one heavy, echoed far through the silent stairwell. As they rounded the corner leading to the fire escape, they ran straight into a group of women. 7 or 8 women emerged from the opposite end of the corridor, walking sluggishly and scattered. Some carried plastic bags, others nothing at all. One clutched a clothes pole torn from somewhere, guarding it like a treasure. They bickered quietly among themselves about who should take which item. It was the group from room 201. Evidently, they had finally finished dawdling, reluctantly sorted out tasks, and dragged themselves outside. The two parties came face to face. Silence crashed over the corridor, the air stiffening for half a second. Fang Yaqi walked at the front. Her steps visibly halted the moment she spotted Lu Yuan and Chiu Yuan. The women behind her stopped too, every pair of eyes fixed on the two of them. Suwon was the first to speak. She leaned out from the crowd, looking Chiu Yuan up and down. Her mouth curled upward as she looked. Well, if it isn't Sister Chiu Yuan. I thought monsters had snatched you away. Turns out you threw yourself straight into a man's arms. She drew out the word sister mockingly, tilting her tone sharply at the end. Several women behind her laughed, their faces openly displaying the smug look of I knew this would happen. Tang Shi folded her arms and cut in, her gaze sweeping over Chiu Yuan's pale face. You look so washed out. Did he wear you out completely? My, a high society socialite from Shanghai with hundreds of millions to her name, reduced to this state by a mere security guard, TSK Tisk. What did I tell you? Suwon spread her hands. I said it when she left. Women in their 30s crave affection desperately. Once the end times hit, and they're loose among men, they cling right on. Just as I expected. I once thought you carried yourself with such dignity. Another woman said sourly. Now, you're nothing special. A top socialite of Shanghai, running around with a security guard. How is this any different from being with a vagrant? Still claiming hundreds of millions? Who knows if that money is worth anything now? Truly used and discarded. Jeering remarks buzzed around them like flies, growing crueler by the second. The women wore excited grins, thrilled to have caught Xiao Yuan in what they saw as an embarrassing predicament, eager to mock her from head to toe. Xiao Yuan paid them no mind. She stood there, gripping the straps of her backpack, a faint smile still playing on her lips. She was a mature woman. This was the key difference between a woman like her and girls in their early 20s. She knew what mattered and what was not worth her attention at all. Surviving outweighed all idle gossip. Words could not harm her, so she simply ignored everything they said. Fang Yaqi stepped forward, lifting her chin slightly. Xiao Yuan, I will give you one last chance. Turn back while you still can. Leave Lu Yuan now, and you will be welcome to rejoin our all-female group. If you persist on this foolish path, do not blame me for offering no more chances. She stood tall, her posture identical to how she had held herself accepting awards before the apocalypse, as if waiting for Xiao Yuan to bow her head and beg to return. Xiao Yuan looked at her, fighting the urge to laugh. Go back. Return to room 201 and wait to die alongside these people? Constant hunger, endless quarrels, everyone dragging each other down, trivial conflicts blowing up into chaos. She had spent 7 days inside that room, and every minute remained etched in her memory. What would be the point of returning? To suffer more? With Lu Yuan, she had enough to eat and warm clothes. Admittedly, Lu Yuan was demanding and wild in bed, yet she did not mind. In this world, food, shelter, and protection always came with a price. Nothing in life was free. After years navigating elite social circles, Xiao Yuan understood this equation perfectly. She was about to turn down the offer when a hand suddenly closed around hers. Xiao Yuan glanced down. Lu Yuan had taken her hand. Yuan, Lu Yuan said casually, as if commenting on pleasant weather. There is no need to waste energy arguing with them. Then he pulled a Snickers bar out of his pocket with his free hand. Lu Yuan tore off the wrapper, revealing the chocolate and peanut energy bar, and held it out. Here, have a Snickers. Eat it to regain your strength. We're going down to hall supplies. He lifted the bar to her lips. Xiao Yuan froze for a moment. Then her faint smile softened into something genuine. She opened her mouth and took a bite. Chocolate melted on her tongue, and sweet crushed peanuts crunched between her teeth, bringing a long-forgotten sense of satisfaction. After swallowing, she spoke softly. Thank you, husband. She turned to look at Lu Yuan, her gaze warm and clinging. Husband, let's go. Let's go. Lu Yuan held her hand, and the two walked past the all-female group. As she walked, Xiao Yuan took another bite of the Snickers, her cheeks stuffed. Her face radiated pure contentment. The women behind them stiffened completely. Silence stretched on for several seconds, until someone swallowed loudly. Su Wan stared at the Snickers in Xiao Yuan's hand. Her eyes tracked it from Xiao Yuan's lips to her palm, then toward Lu Yuan's pocket. She clearly spotted at least 2 more bars tucked inside. Their own stockpiles had long run dry of treats like that. They had devoured all their best food during that candlelit dinner the night before. All that remained were hardtack and a handful of instant noodles they had managed to sort out late last night. A Snickers? Impossible. They had not seen a single proper snack in days. Their mouths felt so dry and tasteless they craved anything edible. Watching Xiao Yuan lean against Lu Yuan, hand in hand, being fed chocolate and peanuts, jealousy surged up, stinging far worse than the mockery they had hurled at her moments earlier. Fang Yaqi's face turned pitch black. She stared at their retreating backs, pressing her lips into a thin line. After several seconds, she forced the words out between her teeth. Bitch. Sold herself to a man for petty favors. A man-pleasing whore. She took a deep breath to suppress the bitter envy rising inside her, then raised her voice to address the women behind her. Pay no mind to this shameless pair. Search for supplies. It's only a Snickers. We will find piles of them easily. Move. Her words worked. The women who had been swallowing hard perked up instantly at the mention of countless Snickers bars, urging one another toward the fire escape. Let's go. Find the Snickers. We'll find far better snacks than those 2 bars he has. There are dozens of apartments downstairs. Any one of them will have chocolate. Mark my words. The crowd chattered as they flooded into the stairwell, footsteps clattering downward. Fang Yaqi marched at the front, walking quickly, as if hurrying faster would recover the dignity she had just lost. 18th floor. This was indeed the lowest floor, still safely accessible for activity. The 17th floor was completely cut off, swallowed by thick fog. Once the all-female group reached the 18th floor, Fang Yaqi immediately slipped into commander mode, ready to assign tasks to her followers. Work in pairs of 2. Split up and search. She stood in the middle of the corridor and swept her hand out, like a female general reviewing her troops. We've got so many people. We'll search far faster than those 2. Go through every room thoroughly. Carry off anything you can get your hands on. Don't let them beat us to it. Her arrangements certainly sounded convincing. Tang Shi paired up with Su Wan, Qin Yi with Lin Mushuang. The rest split into teams of 2, making 6 groups in total. Each team took charge of several apartments whose doors had already been broken open. Fang Yaqi stayed in the corridor to oversee and coordinate. Not far behind her, Zhang Bing leaned against the wall with folded arms, following along with a blank expression. Everyone sprang into action. They turned every ransacked apartment upside down, searching cabinets, coffee tables, nightstands, and bathrooms. Sure enough, they uncovered quite a few supplies. I found half a case of water over here. 3 packs of compressed biscuits. There's a power bank. It still works. I've got several packs of tissues. Item after item piled up in the center of the corridor. Watching the stack grow higher, a smile finally tugged at the corners of Fang Yaqi's mouth. She stood beside the pile with her arms crossed, mentally tallying everything. Water, biscuits, tissues, batteries. Altogether, they had amassed a decent haul. Once we strip every place bare, we'll see what they can do. Fang Yaqi was savoring her triumph when she caught sight of Lu Yuan and Xiao Yuan emerging from the darkness out of the corner of her eye. They walked at a leisurely pace, not looking for supplies so much as strolling down a street. They did not spare a single glance at the doorways. They passed the ransacked apartment doorways, walking straight on by. Fang Yaqi frowned slightly. What's going on? Why aren't they in any hurry? Then she watched Lu Yuan stop in front of a tightly closed security door. Fang Yaqi recognized this door. It had been shut the last time. She and several other women had tried prying it open with chair legs and smashing it with a fire axe. Yet the axe only struck a shower of sparks. The door had not budged an inch, forcing them to give up. This high-grade security door was among the hardest to breach in the whole building. It was fitted with a top-tier lock cylinder that could not be opened without its key. She was about to jeer when she saw Lu Yuan pull some kind of tool from his pocket, seemingly preparing to pick the lock. Fang Yaqi froze. What's he doing? Picking the lock. Su Wan also saw and edged closer, muttering quietly. He's just a security guard. Can he even open a lock like this? Neither of them believed he would succeed. But a moment later, click, the lock popped open under his skillful hands. Lu Yuan pushed, and the heavy security door slid inward soundlessly, revealing a pitch-black living room beyond. Fang Yaqi stood rooted to the spot. Triumph faded from her face, replaced first by confusion, then shock. How did he manage that? Xiao Yuan stood behind Lu Yuan and glanced sideways at Fang Yaqi. There was no smugness, no mockery in that gaze, only the calm detachment of looking at a stranger. Then Xiao Yuan stepped through the doorway after Lu Yuan and pulled the door shut behind them. Silence hung over the corridor for several long seconds. Su Wan spoke first. Since when could he pick locks? I have no idea, Tang Shi mumbled. This kind of door was supposed to be impossible to open. But now the damned man kept a trick up his sleeve. All eyes were fixed on the newly closed security door, filled with tangled emotions. They understood exactly what Lu Yuan's lock-picking skill meant. Apartments whose doors remained sealed were almost certainly untouched by looters. Each one was a treasure trove, stocked with vast quantities of supplies. And now all these treasure troves were within Lu Yuan's reach. No wonder Lu Yuan dared leave so confidently. No wonder he could afford to support Xiao Yuan with only a small stock of supplies. He had planned ahead all along. Fang Yaqi clenched her fists, nails digging into her palms. Rage blazed in her beautiful eyes. That security guard. Inside the apartment meanwhile, Lu Yuan and Xiao Yuan were indulging in a feast. Once inside, they divided the work clearly. Xiao Yuan searched the cabinets, while Lu Yuan tackled locks. Several locked cabinets and a safe inside were all pried open by him in under 10 seconds apiece. Yet they held little of value, mostly cash, gold and silver jewelry, useless in the current world. Xiao Yuan, on the other hand, uncovered plenty of useful goods. Lu Yuan, 3 boxes of self-heating hot pot, a big jar of nuts over here, canned food, 5 or 6 tins of luncheon meat and braised pork, biscuits, chocolate, and a bag of beef jerky. Xiao Yuan called out as she stuffed items into her backpack. Soon the bag was overstuffed, its zipper refusing to close, and her tote bag was nearly full too. Lu Yuan knelt beside the pile, assessed how much the two of them could carry, and made a decision. Anything we can't take with us, open and eat it all. Xiao Yuan shot him a look without hesitation or doubt. She understood his reasoning, and she backed him unconditionally. She knelt down, tore open all 3 boxes of self-heating hot pot, and added water to activate the heating packs. She twisted open a tin of luncheon meat. She stuck a fork in and popped a chunk into her mouth. Lu Yuan ripped open the beef jerky and stuffed it in his pocket for snacks. He opened a bar of chocolate, broke off a piece, and handed it to her. The self-heating pots bubbled away. The pots filled the room with a mingled aroma of cured meat and spicy broth. The two knelt beside the coffee table, each holding a box of hot pot and eating hungrily. Beside them stood the open jar of nuts and the luncheon meat tin. Qiu Yuan scooped a handful of nuts into her hot pot and stirred, eating with obvious enjoyment. "This is delicious," Qiu Yuan mumbled through mouthfuls. "Open that tin of braised pork too," Lu Yuan said. "Got it." They happily continued their hearty meal. Outside the door, the all-female group had ransacked every accessible room on the 18th floor. Their haul was meager, mostly bottled water, instant noodles, and compressed biscuits. The better supplies had already been claimed earlier, back when Lu Yuan was still part of their group. He had always picked the best supplies first. After moving those supplies upstairs, most had been consumed during their candlelit dinner. All they had left were the scraps they had overlooked back then. Suwon stacked several cases of water and packs of instant noodles on the corridor floor. Her expression remained grim as she stacked. "That's all we've got." Fong Yaqi walked over with a frown and stared at the pile. "Why is there so little? We already searched the 18th floor once before." Suwon spread her hands. "Most edible supplies were eaten up. Only this remains. We took all the good stuff upstairs before, and then," she trailed off, yet everyone knew what came next. They had devoured wine, steak, and foie gras at that dinner. "Yeah, only this rubbish is left," Tang Shi muttered nearby. "I searched 4 apartments and didn't even find a crumb of chocolate. Compressed biscuits, more compressed biscuits. I can't stand eating this stuff. Be grateful we have food. Don't be picky." "I'm not being picky. I just want something different." Everyone stood sighing beside their pitiful pile of supplies. Some knelt and rummaged repeatedly, foolishly hoping to find something better underneath. Gulan stood at the back of the group, arms folded, leaning against the wall. She watched their glum faces, and the corners of her mouth tugged upward faintly. They were reaping what they had sown. They had driven Lu Yuan away because they found him a nuisance, then thrown that lavish candlelit dinner. Now that all the best supplies were gone, who could they blame? Fong Yaqi stood in the center, glaring at the shabby stockpile. She stamped her foot in anger. But once she stopped, her gaze drifted involuntarily toward the closed security door deeper in the corridor. Lu Yuan and Qiu Yuan had been inside for nearly half an hour. What had they found? Her imagination raced as she pictured the apartment. She imagined a spacious living room, intact kitchen cabinets, and shelves piled high with dried provisions. It must be full of excellent supplies, far better than these worthless instant noodles they had scavenged. No, a thought hardened in Fong Yaqi's mind. They could not return empty-handed. There were supplies behind that door. If Lu Yuan could pick locks, he would open one for them too. "Girls," Fong Yaqi raised her voice and turned to face everyone. "We can't settle for this little. There are still dozens of locked doors on this floor. Lu Yuan knows how to pick locks, doesn't he? Make him open them for us." Her words struck the group like lightning. Those who had just been moaning lifted their heads instantly, their eyes lighting up. "That's right. He can pick locks. Tell him to open them. We all live in this building. We're residents, and he's the security guard. Isn't it only right he helps us?" "Exactly. He was employed to serve us. Now he strikes out on his own and refuses to help? That's ridiculous. Let's go wait for Lu Yuan to come out." The women instantly perked up and surged toward the security door in a noisy crowd. Gulan watched them and shook her head gently. She knew they were heading for humiliation. Lu Yuan rarely spoke much, but he acted with clear purpose. He was not the sort of man you could pressure simply by blocking his path and claiming it was his job as a security guard. With this lock-picking skill, he had more access to supplies than anyone else in the building. Why would he share his advantage? Why would he share with the very people who chased him away? Gulan settled in to watch what would unfold. Time ticked by. The women crowded in front of the door, chattering about how to approach Lu Yuan. Some said they ought to speak politely. They noted they needed a favor. Others argued there was no need for politeness, as he was paid to work for them. Their quarrel was at its loudest when there was a sharp click from the lock. The door opened. Lu Yuan and Qiu Yuan stepped out. Lu Yuan carried a bulging military backpack, its side pockets stuffed full. He also held a tote bag crammed tight, cardboard packaging poking out from the opening. Qiu Yuan walked beside him, her backpack similarly overloaded. She held 2 unopened boxes of self-heating hot pot in her arms. Her face remained relaxed and content after their hearty meal. Most notably, as soon as the door swung open, a rich aroma drifted out. Spicy broth, cured meat claypot rice, mixed with the scent of luncheon meat and nuts, spread through the corridor, stirring hunger in everyone. The all-female group had barely eaten all day. Searching and hauling supplies had drained their energy, leaving them ravenous. The smell crashed over them, triggering a wave of hunger. Several swallowed hard in unison. Suwon stared fixedly at the two hot pot boxes, mesmerized. Fong Yaki caught the scent too. Her Adam's apple bobbed, though she gave no outward sign. Her expression only turned colder, and she tilted her chin higher. Lu Yuan swept his gaze over the crowd blocking the doorway and spoke bluntly. What do you want? Move aside. Fong Yaki stepped forward directly into his path. She tilted her head up, staring at him as though demanding his full attention, leaving no room for negotiation in her tone. Lu Yuan, open the door to the neighboring apartment for us. Lu Yuan looked at her. He paused for a second, then he laughed. It was no polite smile. He was genuinely amused, his eyes asking whether she was joking. Why should I help you? Is that part of my job? Lu Yuan asked, his voice calm. No sooner had he finished speaking than someone in the crowd cut in. You are the building's security guard. We pay huge property management fees every year. You are obligated to help us. Precisely. Suwon stepped up beside Fong Yaki, hands planted on her hips. She spoke with unshakable self-righteousness. We pay your wages. What's the trouble with opening a door? Isn't that what you're supposed to do? Exactly. Think about it. You drew a salary every month when you worked here. Our fees support you. Now you drag your feet. It's only a few doors. Opening them won't hurt you. You already know how. It would take no effort. Why are you so stingy? We're all neighbors in the same building. How can you be so selfish? Voices overlapped, one demand following another in the hall. The women regained their confidence, chests puffed out and chins raised, convinced they held the moral high ground. Words from the old world, property fees, security guard, service, obligation, rolled off their tongues with absurd self-assurance. They stood in the corridor on the 7th day. They stood on the 18th floor shrouded in black mist, with only a few bottles of water and packs of compressed biscuits at their feet. Yet they still dared to claim, we pay for you. It was as if the old labels still clung to everyone. It was as if Lu Yuan remained the uniformed security guard bowing and scraping at the complex gate. Lu Yuan watched them, and his smile widened. He glanced sideways at Xiao Yuan. She met his gaze, a smile playing on her lips as well. He turned back. His voice was quiet, yet every word rang clear, like pebbles dropping into water. First, I never see a cent of the property fees. That money goes straight to the property management company, not me. Second, I don't work there anymore. As far as I'm concerned, you are all strangers now. What obligation do I have to help strangers? Lu Yuan said calmly. Silence descended over the corridor. The women who had been shouting confidently were struck speechless, mouths open yet unable to reply. Lu Yuan was right. In the current reality, they were merely strangers, even potential enemies. To carry on talking about property fees was ridiculous. But the silence only lasted a few seconds. A shrill female voice cut through the crowd again. Even as strangers, you owe us help. You're a man. It's only natural you help women. Right. Another woman echoed immediately. You are meant to help us. It's your duty. Lu Yuan stared at the woman speaking, paused 2 seconds, then burst out laughing. It was genuine laughter, his shoulders shaking, as if he had heard the funniest joke of the year. He stifled his laughter and looked straight at her. When Miss Fong sent me away, she made one thing crystal clear. Women only need to support each other. Male help is completely unnecessary. Aren't you contradicting her by saying this now? The remark landed like a precise scalpel, cutting straight to everyone's sore spot. The women who had just been chiming in fell silent at once, their faces alternating between red and pale. They remembered every word Fong Yaki had spoken in the safe room. Words like, men are the greatest danger in the apocalypse. Women can survive by sticking together. We don't need men. She had declared them loudly. Now they came begging a man for assistance. Their double standards were staggering. Fong Yaki stood within the group, her face twisted as though she had swallowed a live fly. Rage seethed inside her, yet she could not utter a single retort. Every one of those words had come from her own mouth. Seeing them all fall quiet, Lu Yuan had no patience left for further talk. He glanced at Xiao Yuan. Let's go. The two turned toward the stairwell. You can't leave. Suwon darted out from the crowd and spread her arms to block his path. She tilted her chin up, her jaw tight. You aren't going anywhere until you open one door for us. Her spoiled temper had flared up. She intended to force the issue. The instant the words left her mouth, Lu Yuan raised his hand. Smack! A sharp slap landed squarely across Suwon's fair cheek. The crisp sound echoed down the corridor for several seconds. Suwon stumbled 2 steps sideways and crashed against the wall. She clutched her stinging red cheek, frozen in shock. Her eyes widened as she stared at Lu Yuan, utterly dumbfounded. No one had ever struck Su Wan in her life. Born into wealth, she had been sheltered and pampered at home. Every man she met outside bowed and smiled to please her. No one had even spoken harshly to her, let alone laid a hand on her. And now, a security guard. A lowly guard she would not normally spare a glance for. He had slapped her. Su Wan stood rigid, hand pressed to her cheek, unable to speak. Tears welled in her eyes, yet she was too stunned to cry. An eerie stillness fell over the scene. Every member of the all-female group was stunned, including Fong Yaqi. All stared at Lu Yuan open-mouthed, as if witnessing something that overturned everything they believed. They still thought of Lu Yuan as merely a security guard, even now. Lu Yuan had left, yet they believed they could order him around whenever they pleased. That slap, however, shattered all their delusions to smithereens. At that moment, Zhang Bing moved. She stepped forward swiftly, stretching out her right hand to seize Lu Yuan's wrist, her movement crisp and decisive. But Lu Yuan reacted far faster. Before her fingers could touch him, his hand snapped back to grab hers. He was quicker and stronger. His fingers closed firmly around her wrist, twisting it downward. Zhang Bing stumbled half a step forward. As she lifted her other hand to fight back, Lu Yuan shifted her arm and pinned her shoulder from the side. The sequence looked as though he had practiced it 100 times. The whole exchange took less than 2 seconds. Zhang Bing froze. She tugged once, unable to break free. She pulled again, yet his grip was as unyielding as an iron vice. She looked up at Lu Yuan. For the first time, a crack appeared on his face. Shock, mixed with fear. This man possessed terrifying strength, far more than she had anticipated. She had practiced Sanda for 7 or 8 years. She knew full well the natural strength gap between men and women, but Lu Yuan's power transcended that ordinary divide, belonging to an entirely different league. Lu Yuan held onto her wrist and did not let go. He swept his gaze calmly over everyone present, his voice quiet and flat. "May I leave now?" No one answered. Fong Yaqi stood in the middle of the crowd, watching Zhang Bing restrained single-handedly by Lu Yuan. The last shred of confidence inside her deflated like a leaking balloon. Zhang Bing had been her final support, the very foundation that let her hold her ground among the group. Now that Zhang Bing had been subdued by Lu Yuan with one hand, what did Fong Yaqi have left? Her lips trembled. She gritted her teeth and whispered, "Let them pass." The words came out with immense difficulty, as if scraped raw in her throat before she could utter them. But she said it. The crowd parted like a receding tide, clearing a path. No one dared to block him. All their previous arrogance and self-righteousness had been wiped away by that slap and that quick hold. A truth finally dawned on them. Lu Yuan was no longer that security guard who would reason with them. Only then did Lu Yuan release Zhang Bing. He turned and walked toward the stairwell with Chiu Yuan. After several steps, Lu Yuan halted and glanced back at Fong Yaqi, a teasing smile playing on his lips. "Oh, right," he said, his tone as if doing them a casual favor. "There's still some broth left from the hot pot inside. If you want it, hurry and take it back. You can soak crackers in it. Just so you know, it has my saliva in it. I hope you won't mind." With that, he walked away without another backward glance. Chiu Yuan followed close behind. The two rounded the corner into the stairwell, their footsteps fading gradually. Silence fell over the corridor, broken only by breathing and suppressed sobs from Su Wan, who covered her face. Fong Yaqi stood rooted to the spot, her face flushing pale and red by turns. Her fingernails dug deep into her palms, leaving pale indentations. Hot pot broth tainted with his saliva, for them to take back and soak crackers. It was an obvious humiliation. As an A-list superstar, she had never endured such shame. And it came from a security guard. Lu Yuan was utterly detestable. Fong Yaqi clenched her fists, her chest heaving. She wanted to say something, yet no words came. She could only watch helplessly as Lu Yuan and Chiu Yuan left. After they were gone, the security door remained open. The aroma of hot pot lingered in the corridor, an invisible force tugging at everyone's empty stomachs. Fong Yaqi took a deep breath and turned to the others. "Let's head back." As soon as she finished speaking, Qin Yi spoke up. Her voice was soft, tentative. "Sister Yaqi, we still have a little time. Should we go inside and take a look?" Fong Yaqi turned to stare at her, her gaze icy. "Why?" Qin Yi shrank back under that cold stare, but having already voiced the thought, she forced herself to continue. "I just thought, there might be leftover food inside. We'll pop in for a quick look and leave, it won't take long." Fong Yaqi fixed her with a frigid look. "Look for what? Leftovers Lu Yuan ate? Are you craving Lu Yuan's saliva?" Her words cut sharply. Qin Yi was stunned. She opened her mouth to retort, Yet Fong Yaki had hit on exactly what she was thinking. Truth be told, she badly wanted to go inside. Her stomach had growled repeatedly when the hot pot scent drifted out earlier. She had barely eaten all day, only half a ration biscuit, and was starving. The door stood open, carrying the rich smell of meat. The thought, what if there is something left, kept swirling in her mind. Seeing her fall silent, Fong Yaki thought the matter was closed. But when she scanned the rest of the group, she noticed everyone swallowing hard. Tang Shi squatted pretending to tie her shoelaces, yet her Adam's apple bobbed visibly. Lin Muxiue stood with her arms folded, her eyes constantly drifting toward the open doorway. Su Wan still covered her face, her eyes red, yet her gaze kept darting toward the crack of the door. The scent drifting out was overwhelming. The spicy heat of the hot pot base, the savory aroma of luncheon meat, the oily fragrance of roasted nuts, all swirled into their noses. Coupled with empty stomachs that had endured hours of hunger, the gnawing longing was impossible to suppress. Fong Yaki looked around and understood what everyone wanted. She closed her eyes briefly, as if making a painful compromise. Go inside. Be quick and come back out. The moment she spoke, those who had feigned indifference sprang into action. Qin Yi rushed through the door first. One after another, the others flooded into the apartment, far faster than they had searched for supplies earlier. The apartment was messier than they had imagined. 3 open self-heating hot pot boxes sat on the coffee table. All noodles and vegetables had been consumed, leaving only red, oily broth dotted with a few chopped green onions. Beside them were empty tin cans, still labeled for luncheon meat, scraped completely clean of every last trace of grease. A nut jar stood open, holding nothing but tiny crumbs. Chocolate wrappers littered the floor. The air was thick with warm food aromas, mixed with the sweet scent of carbohydrates. Faced with this aftermath, none of them could speak. The same scene replayed endlessly in their minds. While they had been scrambling through looted, dusty buildings outside, hauling ration biscuits, Lu Yuan and Qiu Yuan had sat comfortably here, basking in hot pot steam, prying open cans and eating to their heart's content. They gnawed dry ration biscuits outside. Inside, Lu Yuan and Qiu Yuan enjoyed self-heating hot pot paired with all sorts of canned food. It wasn't fair. It was one thing for Lu Yuan to live so well. But why Qiu Yuan? Simply because she chose to stay with him? Jealousy burned bitter in every woman's chest. Staring at the empty boxes on the table, the stinging pain from the slap on their cheeks faded. The ache of hunger was far worse. Let's see what's left, Qin Yi muttered, squatting to search under the coffee table. The others followed suit, like starved animals scavenging for leftover scraps. Some tipped nut crumbs from the jar into their palms and ate them. Others picked chocolate flakes off wrappers and licked their fingers. There's a beef granule on the floor, Tang Shi called out. Several people turned. Sure enough, a piece of beef jerky lay beside a sofa leg. Tang Shi knelt, brushed dust off it, and popped it into her mouth. A wealthy heiress, picking stray beef off the ground to eat. The others watched, heavy-hearted, yet no one dared mock her. No one touched the self-heating hot pot boxes still filled with red broth on the table. Scattered green onions and tiny meat fragments floated on top, yet everyone deliberately stepped around them. Saliva. Lu Yuan had warned them. Hungry as they were not desperate enough for that. They avoided looking too closely, fearing temptation would overcome them. Only Gulan acted differently. She walked to the coffee table, knelt, and lifted each hot pot box one by one. She carefully replaced the lids, wrapped them in newspaper, and tucked them into a plastic bag she had brought. Tang Shi saw this and frowned. Gulan, what are you doing? Are you really going to eat food with Lu Yuan's saliva on it? Gulan glanced up at her without a word. She finished wrapping all the boxes tightly, stood, tied the plastic bag shut, and held it. Tang Shi rolled her eyes. Gulan paid her no mind. She knew this food could save lives in a crisis. Others might turn their noses up, but she would not. Surviving mattered more than petty pride. Finish up and let's go, Fong Yaki said from the doorway. She was eager to leave as soon as possible. The scent tormented her. Even she craved something to eat. The group filed out of the apartment, clutching tiny scraps they had found, a stark contrast to the confident way they had arrived empty-handed. Everyone stayed quiet, their expressions tangled, embarrassment, resentment, and gnawing hunger all woven together. The group retreated from the 18th floor like a receding tide, climbing upward along the stairwell. Lu Yuan and Qiu Yuan returned to the 21st floor. He double-checked the 3 steel bars and anti-explosion locks. Once satisfied everything was secure, he set down his backpack and let out a long breath. A profound sense of safety wrapped around him. In the end times, possessing a safe house was invaluable. Qiu Yuan set her backpack on the coffee table and relaxed her shoulders. She glanced at the supplies stacked high across the living room. Instead of slumping onto the sofa like Lu Yuan, she knelt and unzipped her largest storage bag. "Pour everything out," she said. "I'll sort it." Lu Yuan had been about to offer to help, but seeing her already hard at work, he held back. He emptied everything from his backpack and tote bag onto the coffee table, then pulled loose items out of his pockets as well. Qiu Yuan took each item one by one. A clean large towel was already spread out beside her, as if she had planned ahead. First, she separated food and daily necessities. Mineral water bottles lined up in a row. Self-heating hot pots were stacked neatly. Cans were sorted into meat and vegetable categories. Snacks went into one bag, batteries and charging cables into a small separate box. She even grabbed a scrap of paper and a broken pencil, scribbling notes, dates, item types, quantities, and an estimate of how long each supply would last. Her handwriting was elegant yet sharp. Lu Yuan leaned back in his chair, watching her work, a faint smile tugging at his lips. Truth be told, if he were alone, he would never bother with such meticulous organization. He would simply dump supplies in a corner and only keep track of what needed to be eaten first. Qiu Yuan was different. She assigned every item a place, set consumption orders, and marked dates. She moved with the poise of a senior executive. Her capabilities were undeniable. As the owner of a financial firm worth hundreds of millions, organizing these supplies was child's play for her. Lu Yuan stared at her side profile, thinking that if this shelter grew larger in the future, Qiu Yuan would fill an irreplaceable role here. After some time, Qiu Yuan stacked the last can, checked her written inventory from start to finish, nodded in satisfaction, then stood and stretched. "I'm going to take a shower," she said. "All right," Lu Yuan replied. They had stored reserves of water, enough for simple showers. Qiu Yuan grabbed her change of clothes and headed to the bathroom. The sound of running water soon echoed out. Lu Yuan did not idle. He walked into the home gym, put on headphones, and began his daily training. Dumbbells, bench presses, pull-ups. He completed his usual full routine. Thanks to system enhancements, his stamina had greatly improved. He only worked up a light sweat and felt no real exhaustion. Around an hour later, Lu Yuan walked out of the gym and wiped sweat from his neck with a towel. As he stepped into the living room, he saw Qiu Yuan out of the shower, standing by the water dispenser pouring powder into a cup. "I mixed protein powder for you," she said, shaking the cup. "Drinking this after training aids recovery. I found the last half can deep inside the storage cabinet. It hasn't expired." Lu Yuan walked over and took the cup. It was pleasantly warm. She really was thoughtful. Lu Yuan smiled, then gently pulled her into his embrace, his gaze falling on her full figure. "I'm craving something else." Qiu Yuan blushed and shot him a flirtatious glance. "I don't have what you want, otherwise I'd let you have your fill." Lu Yuan laughed, drained the protein shake in one gulp, set the cup on the coffee table, then headed to take his own shower. Hot water washed away all traces of sweat. He turned off the tap, dried himself, and stepped out wearing shorts and a t-shirt. The moment he pushed open the bedroom door, Lu Yuan froze at the sight before him. Qiu Yuan had changed into a lace nightgown at some point. The fabric was so sheer it was almost transparent. She wore nothing underneath. Her figure was stunning by any standard. Clad in such thin nightwear with no undergarments, her graceful curves and fair skin created an overwhelming visual impact. Most of all, Qiu Yuan knelt halfway on the floor, resembling a docile kitten waiting for her master's affection. Lu Yuan stepped closer, and Qiu Yuan lifted her head. A hazy glow settled over her exquisite, beautiful face. "Where did you get this dress?" Lu Yuan asked after studying her carefully. "I found it in that room earlier. I thought it might come in handy, so I brought it back." Qiu Yuan's eyes glistened. "Do you like it?" Lu Yuan's gaze burned with desire, a smile curling his lips. Mature women certainly knew how to captivate a man. He tilted her chin upward, his grin widening. "I like it very much." The next second, Lu Yuan leaned down and kissed her. Their lips met. Before long, they became tangled in a passionate embrace. Meanwhile, at the far end of the corridor on the 21st floor, the atmosphere inside room 201 could not have been more different. The group trudged back inside. Everyone collapsed onto sofas, carpets, and corners. No one spoke. A suffocating low pressure hung in the air. Suwon plopped onto the floor, leaning against a sofa leg. She clutched the half bottle of mineral water she had picked up on the 18th floor, staring at it without twisting open the cap. Tang Shi, still stinging from the slap, curled up in the corner with her knees drawn to her chest, red-eyed and lost in thought. Qin Yi leaned her head back against the sofa and stared at the ceiling, drained of all energy. The others were in much the same state. Some stared blankly at the ground. Others clutched ration biscuits they had found, but could not bring themselves to unwrap. The supplies they had hauled lay scattered by the door, less than 1/5 of what they had enjoyed at their candlelit dinner the night before. Reality had shattered all fantasies. No one voiced it, yet the same thought weighed on every mind. Would they truly survive? The question hung in their heads like a thin shard of ice. It was the 7th day since the end times descended. No planes, no rescue teams, no broadcasts, no mobile signal. Trapped inside this building, they bickered over single packs of ration biscuits. Qiu Yuan had left them. Since siding with Lu Yuan, she ate well and stayed warm, able to enjoy as many self-heating hot pots as she wished. Meanwhile, they sat on cold floors gnawing dry ration biscuits. The carefree sisterhood atmosphere faded from every face, revealing the truth beneath. Panic, confusion, helplessness. It finally sank in. Rescue might never arrive. They might never be saved. They needed to focus on one thing, staying alive. Fang Yaqi sat on the sofa, clearly sensing this shift. She scanned every face in the room, her heart sinking. She stood, clapped her hands, and raised her voice. Don't lose hope, everyone. All eyes turned toward her. We failed this time, but one setback means nothing. Fang Yaqi spread her arms wide. She posed as if standing center stage waiting for applause. As long as we sisters stand united, we can overcome any hardship. Lu Yuan is just one man, and he managed to survive. How could the 17 of us sisters possibly fail? She took a step forward and went on. Every single one of us girls is our own leading lady. As long as we hold fast to that belief, we will definitely stay alive inside this building. Her words rang out powerfully, brimming with emotion. Su Wan's eyes lit up and she sniffled. Tang Shi lifted her head from the corner. Several women exchanged glances. The panic that had just begun to creep over them eased slightly after hearing her speech. Seeing it was working, Fang Yaqi's lips tugged upward into a faint smile, and she added another line. Stay calm, everyone. Everything is still under control. We were simply unprepared today. Tomorrow we will turn things around. Yet she did not say a single word about exactly how they would turn things around, what plans they had for the next day, or who would carry out any tasks. Even so, those words were enough for some of the women. Many of the young women craved this empty, emotional reassurance, clinging to fantasies of a brighter future. No one knew how to put any of it into practice. Only a handful watched on with flickering eyes, refusing to get swept up in the excitement. Gulan sat in the corner, gnawing on compressed biscuits. She watched the group reinvigorated by Fang Yaqi's words, her thoughts hidden away. Zhang Bing stood leaning against the wall, sweeping her gaze over everyone with a blank expression, saying nothing. The night passed like this. The next morning, the sky remained perpetually dark. One by one, the women inside the room woke up. None of them had slept well. Most had tossed and turned through the night in a half-slumber, their stomachs growling relentlessly. Zhang Bing stood beside the pile of supplies, handing out breakfast portions. 1 block of compressed biscuits for each person. A small half-cup of water apiece. We're eating this again. Su Wan took the rock-hard biscuit and stared at it, unable to hide her disgust. Why is it always this stuff? It has no flavor at all. Chewing it feels like gnawing on wall plaster. I agree. Tang Shi frowned. Where are the instant noodles? Weren't there still some left? Let's boil them. I want something warm to eat too. I've had these compressed biscuits so many times my throat is rebelling. Complaints erupted one after another, like a crowd of hungry children throwing tantrums. Zhang Bing broke off a piece of biscuit for herself, popped it into her mouth, chewed and swallowed it. Her tone was as flat as if she were delivering a work report. We're saving the instant noodles for when we head out at noon. Moving outside burns plenty of energy, and we need extra calories then. While we stay indoors, compressed biscuits will suffice. She did not speak much, but her tone left little room for argument. Zhang Bing rarely smiled on ordinary days. Though the women resented her words, none dared talk back to her face. Su Wan pouted and took a sulky bite of the biscuit. There was a sharp crunch. After a couple of chews, her frown deepened. It tasted awful, dry and bland, scraping her throat as she swallowed. Before the apocalypse, she would never have touched such food. Even her weight loss meals tasted better. Now, ravenous as she was, she had no choice but to force it down bite by bite. Putting everything else aside, Su Wan mumbled mid-chew. I want steak, red wine, giant lobster. Her words acted like a fuse, instantly stoking everyone's cravings. Stop talking. You're only making me hungrier. Back home, my maid would pan-fry steak and serve it to me. I never even set foot in the kitchen. I miss lobster too, garlic steamed, or baked with cheese. The aroma was incredible. Does anyone remember that French restaurant we went to before everything fell apart? Their foie gras was perfect. Ugh, don't keep going, I'm practically drooling. The more they talked, the hungrier they grew. As they chewed their compressed biscuits, their minds filled with images of steak, wine, lobster, and foie gras. Before the apocalypse, these foods were ordinary luxuries to them. They would even grow tired of eating them. Now, they would eat a bowl of hot pork knuckle rice with tears in their eyes if it were set before them. But reality was unforgiving. All they had in front of them were rock-hard biscuits and half a cup of cold water. Hey, someone suddenly spoke up. Where's Moo Moo? Has anyone seen her? The question stunned everyone. They quickly glanced around the room. She was not on the sofa, not in the corner. The bathroom door stood open, empty. Su Mumu, that sweet, lovely girl in her early 20s, as beautiful as a character straight out of a comic book. She rarely spoke within the group, quietly staying tucked away in corners, easy to overlook, but her sweet face was unforgettable. More importantly, she had been one of the 3 women who opposed forcing Lu Yuan out of the group. And now she was gone. Could she be in the bathroom? No, the door's open. It's empty. She was here last night. I'm sure she slept over by the sofa. No one saw her when we woke up this morning. The women exchanged uneasy looks, a terrible premonition settling deeper in their hearts. Gulan sat in the corner, still holding her unfinished compressed biscuit. She lifted her head when she heard Su Mumu's name. The girl's sweet oval face appeared in her thoughts, the quiet figure always huddled silently in the corner. She is far smarter than any of you realize. The thought crossed Gulan's mind. Su Mumu had not raised her hand during the vote. She had not uttered a word when Lu Yuan left. While everyone partied and celebrated last night, she must have already made her choice. Gulan took another crunching bite of biscuit and chewed slowly. That quiet little girl slipped away faster than anyone expected. Elsewhere, inside Lu Yuan's apartment, the clanging of weight plates echoed repeatedly from the home gym, steady and rhythmic. Lu Yuan finished his final set of bench press, racked the barbell, and sat up to catch his breath. He had already completed his daily check-in. The moment he woke this morning, he claimed his reward. The loot displayed on his system panel was excellent. It included something extremely valuable. First among the supplies was an S-rank mystical water tank. Mystical Water Tank S. Once connected to piping, it provides an endless supply of water. Lu Yuan's eyes lit up when he read its effect. An endless water source was arguably the most vital resource in the apocalypse. He did have stored water inside the apartment, but the reserves were far from sufficient. Now that he possessed the mystical water tank, he would never have to worry about water shortages again. The attribute point rewarded this time was not stamina, but strength. A warm surge spread from his chest to every limb after he allocated the point. He clenched his fist while still lying in bed, immediately noticing a clear difference in his grip strength. He had tested it during bench presses just now. His previous limit sat just above 120 kilograms, yet he could push 140 kilograms without hitting his ceiling. Though it was only a 20-kilogram increase, such progress marked a noticeable leap for a human body. If he kept earning attribute points day after day, his physique would grow stronger, far surpassing ordinary human limits. The new ability unlocked today was night vision. It allowed him to distinguish the outlines of objects in complete darkness. He had walked into the gym without switching on a light a short while ago. The room was pitch black, yet the dumbbell rack, cable machine, and steel pipe in the corner all appeared in clear shades of gray, visible enough to navigate. Inside this perpetually shadowed high-rise building, this skill was more useful than any weapon. Not bad at all. After finishing his workout, Lu Yuan headed for a shower. He walked into the bedroom and installed the mystical water tank following the system's instructions. Once connected, water quickly circulated through all plumbing in the apartment. From now on, Lu Yuan would no longer ration water, even for bathing. He could take a proper, satisfying shower. After washing, he dried his neck and chest with a towel, changed into a dry t-shirt, and stepped out of the bathroom. Sounds drifted over from the kitchen. Qiu Yuan was cooking. She knelt in the kitchen corner beside a shallow basin, holding water used to wash vegetables. A few stray leaf fragments floated on the surface. Carefully, slowly, she poured the gray water into another bucket, moving with extreme caution so not a single drop spilled. 2 empty bottles sat nearby, waiting to be filled with the vegetable wash water to flush the toilet later. Lu Yuan walked in from the living room and witnessed the scene. Water was an extremely precious resource in the apocalypse. That explained why Qiu Yuan saved every drop. But those days were over. He leaned against the doorframe and watched her for a moment before stepping forward and gently wrapping his arms around her waist from behind. Qiu Yuan's movements paused at his embrace, yet she soon resumed pouring the water, a faint smile tugging at her lips. "What is it?" Sympathy colored Lu Yuan's voice. You don't need to save water so strictly anymore. She stopped what she was doing and turned her head to look at him. Why? Our water is almost gone. If we don't conserve, how will we survive later? She spoke earnestly, long accustomed to rationing every single drop. She had even made plans in her head. If they ran out of recycled kitchen water, she might have to venture outside to collect mist. Though Qiu Yuan was a wealthy socialite worth hundreds of millions, she was also a diligent, practical woman. Lu Yuan smiled, released her, and walked over to the kitchen counter. He reached out and twisted open the tap. Clatter! Clear running water gushed out. The flow was not massive, yet steady and constant. The sound of water striking the sink echoed clearly in the quiet kitchen. Qiu Yuan stayed kneeling where she was, her mouth falling slightly open, astonishment shining in her beautiful eyes. She stared at the endless stream as if witnessing an impossible miracle. In the past, she collected water drop by drop using small bowls, rushing to catch any stray splashes with her hands. Now, water could flow freely like this. Instinctively, she stretched her hand under the stream. The icy cool touch against her fingertips confirmed it was real. She had never enjoyed such a steady flow of water since the apocalypse began. How is this possible? She stood quickly, hurrying to the sink. She glanced at the running tap, then turned back toward Lu Yuan. What did you do? Lu Yuan twisted the tap shut. The stream dwindled and stopped. Leaning casually against the counter, he answered, I managed to connect to the building's water pipes. The storage tank on the roof hasn't dried out completely. I set up a simple diversion. We'll have usable water for quite some time now. He made it sound effortless, as if he had merely fixed a leaky faucet. But Qiu Yuan was sharp-witted. She knew things could not be that simple. Power across the entire building was dead, and the water supply system had collapsed long ago. To channel water down from the roof required navigating countless pipes, valves and pumping stations while maintaining stable pressure and preventing leaks. She knew nothing about plumbing, yet she could imagine how complicated the task must be. And Lu Yuan had pulled it off silently on his own. She looked at him, choosing not to press for details. She had long suspected Lu Yuan harbored secrets she could not comprehend. As long as the outcome was good, as long as their safe house had food and water to sustain them, she did not need to know everything. There was only one truth she needed to hold on to. Sticking with him was the right choice. Qiu Yuan suddenly rushed forward and threw herself into his arms, unmasked admiration glowing on her lovely face. You are incredible. Her charge was sudden and forceful. Lu Yuan stepped backward half a pace to steady himself. Holding Qiu Yuan's soft, graceful figure in his arms, a powerful sense of accomplishment welled up inside him. The mystical water tank was only the first step. With his system, he could gradually turn this refuge into a genuine fortress. Unlimited water, unlimited electricity, unlimited energy, perhaps all within reach. For now, he would lie low, complete his daily check-in, and take things slow, transforming this apartment bit by bit into the safest haven in the apocalypse. The scent of cooked food drifted through the living room. Qiu Yuan laid chopsticks and bowls out on the low tea table. The portable gas stove was switched off. She had transferred food into 2 plates, one with diced ham stir-fried with dried scallops garnished with chopped green onions, glistening with oil, the other a soup made from instant rice noodles, topped with luncheon meat slices and green vegetables. Everything was assembled from instant food and canned goods, yet her cooking made it look genuinely appetizing. Qiu Yuan was quite a skilled cook. Lu Yuan walked over and sat down. He picked up his bowl, took a mouthful of ham and scallops and chewed. Savory flavors spread across his tongue, blended with the distinct seafood aroma of dried scallops, a rare delicacy in this bleak post-apocalyptic world. Qiu Yuan sat opposite him and began eating as well. Halfway through her meal, she set down her chopsticks, her expression turning grave. Have you noticed the black fog in the corridor growing thicker since this morning? Lu Yuan chewed his rice noodles and murmured an hum. I stepped out to check earlier. Qiu Yuan frowned. There was barely any fog on our floor before, but now it's nearly as dense as on the 17th floor. I fear something terrible is going to happen. Lu Yuan furrowed his brow, swallowed his food, set down his chopsticks, and stood up. I'm going to take a look. He walked to the entrance and peered through the peephole. The fog in the corridor was far thicker than yesterday. Gray-black mist hung suspended in the air, blurring the outline of the opposite wall, matching the density seen on the 17th floor. After observing for a moment, he returned to the dining table and sat back down. We've seen conditions like this before. He picked up another mouthful of food and spoke casually. On the 3rd day, the 21st floor was completely flooded with black fog, far denser than it is now, as if submerged in ink. Everyone panicked back then, convinced we were doomed. But the fog receded not long afterward. Qiu Yuan had not joined him yet at that time. She had been hiding alone, unaware of the shift. It retreated? Yes. Lu Yuan nodded. My guess is this sudden surge of fog differs from the slow, creeping kind. The abrupt surges sometimes pull back, rolling in and out like tides. We do not know the exact cause, but we need not panic over it. What we should truly watch out for is the fog that creeps upward slowly. It builds thicker and thicker and never fades away. Qiu Yuan exhaled in partial relief, though her brows remained knit tight. It's already reached the 18th floor. It will climb to the 21st before long. When that happens, her voice trailed off. She rested her chopsticks on the rim of her bowl, gaze dropping as she pondered the uncertain future. Where would they go once the fog covered this floor? The rooftop? The terrace? Then what? Lu Yuan watched her worried expression. He finished the rice noodles in his bowl, set down his utensils, and spoke in a calmer tone. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. There's always a way forward. No use overthinking it. Qiu Yuan lifted her eyes and met his unhurried, steady gaze. Some of her inner unease subsided. She thought it over and realized he was right. Worrying achieved nothing for the time being. They would deal with the fog if it arrived. Anxiousness would not change anything. Besides, as long as Lu Yuan was here, everything would work out. She picked her bowl back up and took another mouthful. She had barely finished eating and not yet cleared the table when rapid knocking suddenly echoed at the door. Thud, thud, thud. Thud, thud, thud.